Chapter 351. Get out of Great Gone. This was getting good. The crowd stirred with excitement, sensing the impending clash of titans. On one side stood a Dao Fusion genius from the upper world, a man backed by an ancient and formidable heritage. On the other was the regressive bloodline prodigy of the Longevity Jiang family, a youth whose recent exploits had shaken the world. Which of them would prevail? On paper, there was no contest. A Dao Fusion expert against someone in the heaven element realm was a total slaughter, no exceptions. But everyone knew Jiang Xuan had a terrifying trump card. A mysterious powerhouse stood behind him, one capable of slaying even heavenly gods. If these two truly fought to the death, they would inevitably call for backup. Could the Qin family, established in the upper world, hold their own against the weight of the Jiang family? The spectators were thrilled. Jiang Xuan had finally run into a wall he couldn't talk his way around. They watched eagerly to see how he would handle the fallout. They wondered if Nangong Mingyue would stand by him, her nominal fiancé, in such a dire situation. Even if she wanted to, would the Great Gone immortal dynasty risk a feud with the Qin family just for him? The air in the Taiming Tower crackled with tension as the young elite smiled, enjoying the chaos. Interesting, Jiang Xuan said. His smile was cold, and a flash of killing intent crossed his eyes. You seem very confident. Before he could act, Nangong Mingyue stepped forward. She gave Jiang Xuan a subtle, warning shake of her head before turning a frigid gaze toward Qin Kun. Great Gone does not welcome you, she said flatly. Then, she looked up at the void. Ancestor, you have watched for long enough. It is time you did your job. The space inside the Taiming Tower tore open. An ancestor of the Nangong family stepped out, releasing the suffocating pressure of the true god realm. It felt like a divine mountain was pressing down on everyone present. Faces grew pale. Did Great Gone also possess an old monster of the true god realm? Ever since Jiang Qiankun had broken the shackles of the world by crossing his tribulation, there had been rumors of true gods emerging across various factions. It was one thing to speculate that top lineages had such protectors, but it was quite another to stand in their presence. The feeling of one's life being held in another's hand inspired a raw, instinctive terror. Earlier, when the Zhao goddess had summoned a true god, the battle had taken place in the void outside the tower, shielding them from the brunt of the power. Now, with the pressure filling the room, the realization of their own insignificance hit them hard. Qin Kun and Yao Wuxian, who had looked down on the Great Gone dynasty as a mere pawn, were forced to wake up. They realized that a lineage spanning millions of years could never be treated like ants. The true god ancestor, Nangong Mingyue, stood suspended in the air. He glanced at Jiang Xuan with a flicker of complex emotion before looking down at the pale Qin Kun. His voice was cold. Nangong Mingyue has won the struggle for the throne. From this moment on, she is the crown princess of the Great Gone immortal dynasty. Her word is the imperial decree. She speaks for the will of Great Gone. We do not welcome you. You have 3 breaths to leave our borders. If you remain, the consequences are yours to bear. The hall broke into an uproar. They were actually kicking Qin Kun out? Great Gone was willing to go head-to-head with the Qin family for the sake of Jiang Xuan? Qin Kun's face darkened as fury bubbled up inside him. He looked up at Nangong Mingyue and barked. Does Great Gone truly wish to become an enemy of the Qin family for the sake of one man? Nangong Mingyue frowned. You are not qualified to question me. If you are unsatisfied, bring your elders. In response, 2 figures, Qin Ji and Qin Tong, stepped out of the void. They did not hold back their true god auras. The Taiming Tower groaned and creaked under the weight, sounding as if it might collapse at any moment. The crowd gasped. 2 more true gods. Was this about to escalate into a total war between the 2 powers? No matter how deep Great Gone's foundations were, they surely couldn't win a war of attrition against a clan from the upper world. Qin Ji and Qin Tong looked at Nangong Mingyue with icy eyes. Great Gone needs to give the Qin family an explanation, they demanded. Otherwise what? Nangong Mingyue interrupted, cursing them openly. Open your eyes and look where you are. This is my Great Gone immortal dynasty. I told you to leave to save you some face. Do not be ungrateful. Do not force my hand, or I will throw you out personally, one by one. As he spoke, a terrifying, ancient aura erupted from the Great Gone imperial palace thousands of feet away. Countless ancient seals flooded the sky, forming a massive, holy array. A divine glow surged, instantly altering the laws of the surrounding area. Within the array's reach, the world felt like it had transitioned into a new dimension. The faces of Qin Ji and Qin Tong changed. Their eyes filled with shock and suspicion. A saint array? Where did Great Gone find the resources to activate something of that scale? A saint array at full power could threaten even a saint, let alone 2 true gods. The 2 men exchanged a wary look. They had underestimated these long-standing lineages of Xiantian. Without another word, they waved their hands, taking Qin Kun and the other 9 geniuses with them as they vanished from the tower. They didn't leave because they were terrified, but because it wasn't worth it. They had descended to this world to rebuild the immortal Qin family and to claim the treasures within the Earth Emperor's secret realm. Dying in a fight with Great Gan now would only benefit their rivals. The crowd watched them flee in stunned silence. Since the Qin family had revealed themselves to the world, they had been nothing but overbearing and arrogant. Everyone expected them to fight to the death over such an insult. Seeing them tuck tail and run shattered the aura of invincibility surrounding those from the upper world. To the young elites, these newcomers suddenly looked like paper tigers. Nangong Mingda watched them go, but his expression did not soften. In fact, it grew more somber. He wasn't worried about the Qin family. He was worried about Jiang Xuan. He saw that Jiang Xuan looked unsatisfied with how the situation had been handled, and his heart skipped a beat. The reports from the Heavenly King were still spinning in his mind. Guiding 100,000 souls through reincarnation was a miracle that no heaven element cultivator should be capable of. He knew he couldn't do it himself. According to ancient records, even a saint who lived for eternity might struggle with such a feat. Jiang Xuan was hiding a secret far greater than anyone imagined. Great Gan could not afford to be his enemy. They had to mend this relationship at any cost. He thought of the idiots within his own clan, specifically the current emperor. To think the fool wanted to marry Nangong Mingyue off to the Yao family for an alliance while ignoring the literal god standing in front of them. It was pure insanity. If not for those blunders, he wouldn't have to be out here doing damage control himself. Simply driving the Qin family away might not be enough to satisfy Jiang Xuan. He made a snap decision. He looked out at the remaining guests and spoke with cold finality. From this moment on, within the borders of Great Gan, the Qin family and dogs are forbidden from entering. Before anyone could process that shock, Nangong Mingda turned his icy gaze toward Yao Wuxian. And that goes for the Yao family too. Chapter 352, Visitors from the Forbidden Zones. The hall erupted in an uproar. No one expected the Great Gan immortal dynasty to take such a forceful stand. To protect Jiang Xuan, they were willing to offend both the immortal Qin family and the Longevity Yao family simultaneously. Either of these clans was a titan capable of shifting the balance of power in Xiantian. Granted, the Great Gan immortal dynasty stood tall in the central God province, holding 30% of the region's providence and ranking among the top orthodoxies in Xiantian. But was it not too impulsive to provoke two powerful families at once? With the Great Era approaching and the chaos of a troubled world looming, could the dynasty truly avoid disaster after making such enemies? The guests understood that a power that had thrived for millions of years could not be so short-sighted. If Great Gan dared to act this way, they surely had their own reasons. Perhaps, in the eyes of the dynasty, the weight of Jiang Xuan and the Longevity Jiang family far outweighed that of the Qin and Yao clans combined. With that thought, every eye in the room focused on Jiang Xuan. The Jiang family had been in decline, appearing as though they might lose their status as a Longevity clan. That changed recently during the Demon Den incident. Several supreme powerhouses had emerged, from Jiang Changshu, who crossed his tribulation to prove his path, to the resurrected Jiang Qingtian, and finally the mysterious expert who had slain a heavenly god. These events had forced the factions of Xiantian to realize that the Jiang family's foundation remained deep and dangerous. However, the general consensus was that the Jiang family was simply a collection of old schemers hiding a few supreme experts. People believed they were backed by a potential god venerable, but did not necessarily possess absolute strength that eclipsed all other factions. Most evaluations, including those from the clans of the upper world, held this view. While they were cautious, they were not yet truly afraid. In the struggle for dominance in this great era, the real impact would be made by the younger generation. Only these prodigies could carry the momentum of heaven and earth and decide the course of the next million years. This era belonged to the youth. To the onlookers, Jiang Xuan was essentially a privileged second-generation heir. They feared the mysterious powerhouse behind him and avoided provoking him directly, but they did not truly respect Jiang Xuan himself. His previous feats were impressive, but in their eyes, those were merely minor skirmishes in the spirit manifestation and earth profound realms. If the guests thought this, then giants like the Qin and Yao families certainly did. Jiang Xuan's personal strength did not interest them, and his backing was not something they found insurmountable. According to Qin Kun, the Kunlun domain where the Qin family resided was home to many god venerables. The Longevity Yao family had even produced a saint in the Middle Antiquity. It was only natural for them to disregard Jiang Xuan while pursuing Nangong Mingyue and the allure of her Nirvana phoenix body. Now, Great Gan's attitude left them utterly confused. They could not simply assume the dynasty was full of fools who misread the changing times. The only logical conclusion was that Great Gan knew something secret about Jiang Xuan and the Jiang family. Because of this information gap, they were willing to risk everything to expel the Qin and Yao families. Everyone wondered what secret Jiang Xuan carried. Yao Wuxian was no exception. Though he was furious after being coldly driven out by Nangong Mingda, he had nowhere to vent his rage. With the Qin family leaving before him, the dynasty's stance was unmistakable. Furthermore, with the Earth Emperor's secret realm about to open, neither he nor the Yao family wanted a direct confrontation yet. They chose to retreat for now, planning to settle the score once the secret realm business was concluded. The Great Gan would eventually pay for their stupidity. Yao Wuxian would simply grant them a brief period of leniency. He was genuinely curious about what magic a minor figure like Jiang Xuan possessed to make Great Gan defy even the Longevity Yao family. Yao Wuxian cast a dark, lingering look at Jiang Xuan. A chill flashed in his eyes as he spoke with deep meaning. The Earth Emperor's secret realm holds countless treasures, but it also hides endless dangers. With a cold snort, he led his followers and walked out of the Taiming Tower. No one was surprised by his departure. It was a matter of circumstance. Yao Wuxian had come for the secret realm and would not risk his primary goal for a head-on clash. The Qin family had likely retreated for the same reason. Even though Nangong Mingyue had declared that the Qin family, the Yao family, and dogs were forbidden within Great Gan, everyone knew the secret realm was vast. It would be difficult for Great Gan to actually block them from entering. The declaration was likely just a show of force to defend Jiang Xuan. The real grudges would be settled inside the Earth Emperor's secret realm. With the troublemakers gone, the banquet continued. The atmosphere of clinking glasses and light conversations soon returned. These were the top geniuses of various orthodoxies and the future leaders of their respective worlds. Barring any deep-seated blood feuds, it was only natural to network and build connections. After all, one never knew when a contact might become useful. Social obligations were unavoidable. At the very least, these were the dear friends they might need to stab in the back later. The world of cultivation was filled with deception, making social maneuvering a necessity. Jiang Xuan and Nangong Mingyue naturally became the center of the event. Whether they had met before or not, guests came over to toast and offer blessings, calling them a match made in heaven. Regardless of whether the sentiment was sincere, Jiang Xuan had to smile and offer his thanks. Socializing was exhausting. Halfway through the banquet, Nangong Mingyue noticed Jiang Xuan's growing impatience. She moved to lead him away from the Taiming Tower to find some peace and quiet. However, there are always people who fail to read the room. Young Master Jiang, I am Lu Fengqi. I am Kunwu. Gu Shintong. 5 geniuses of the ancient human race who had emerged from the forbidden zones approached together, raising their wine cups. Nangong Mingyue's expression soured. Jiang Xuan rolled his eyes and spoke bluntly. You 5 really don't know how to read a room, do you? Lu Fengqi and the others froze. They realized Jiang Xuan and Nangong Mingyue were heading for the exit, clearly seeking some private time. They offered sheepish smiles and hurried apologies. Our apologies for disturbing your evening. They said the words, but their feet did not move. They had no intention of leaving. Jiang Xuan's face darkened. Is there something you want? The 5 nodded in unison. Lu Fengqi gave a hesitant smile. If it is convenient for young Master Jiang. Jiang Xuan cut him off immediately. It is not convenient. Lu Fengqi was left speechless. Chapter 353, Fellow Members of the Royal Clans. The expressions of the 5 individuals shifted, their moods visibly unsettled. They had not expected such a blunt rejection. They hoped he would at least grant them a bit of professional courtesy. Lu Fengqi hesitated for a moment, but eventually steeled himself to speak in a low voice. We have certain matters we need to verify with young Master Jiang. It concerns the ancestral instructions left by our predecessors. We ask for your understanding. Jiang Xuan glanced at the 5 of them, sensing something strange. Ancestral instructions? What kind of ancient legacy could these people have that involved him? He was not in the mood to ponder it. He had finally reunited with his woman and found a rare moment to be alone with her, only for these 5 glaring distractions to crowd around him. It was incredibly rude. He was just about to refuse when Nangong Mingyue glanced at the group and frowned. After considering it for a moment, she spoke softly. This might be important. You should go talk with them first. We can wait, she said, biting her lower lip as a faint blush touched her cheeks. We are in no hurry. Since his lady had spoken, Jiang Xuan could only accept with a helpless sigh. He turned and followed Lu Fengqi and the others to a relatively quiet room. If you have questions, ask them quickly. My time is precious, Jiang Xuan said, his impatience clear. Kunwu immediately activated his divine authority from his past life, manipulating the natural laws of the environment to set up a barrier. This was to ensure no one could investigate or eavesdrop on their conversation. Jiang Xuan looked at Kunwu with surprise. He wondered what business could be so grave as to require such secrecy, but he was also struck by the man's techniques. They felt oddly familiar. That sense of recognition stemmed from the secret arts of the mountain god. A reincarnated deity, Jiang Xuan thought, recalling the information he had on Kunwu. He felt a flicker of curiosity toward this man. Was there a connection between Kunwu's divine authority and the mountain god? The 5 men looked at one another until their gazes finally settled on Gu Shintong. He nodded and looked at Jiang Xuan, cupping his fists in a respectful greeting. May I ask, young Master Jiang, if the rumors are true? Only by breaking through to the true God realm could one use the power of heaven, earth, and the great Dao to suppress it. Jiang Xuan offered one more piece of advice. Human holy relics and the providence of the human race can help suppress the curse. However, if you gather human providence without possessing a holy relic to anchor it, well, that providence will actually further stimulate the curse. Jiang Xuan thought back to what had happened to him in the royal city and shrugged. If that happens, you can only pray for the best. Gu Shintong looked deeply grateful and bowed again. Thank you, young Master Jiang, for clearing our doubts. This information is vital to me and the ancient clan. Words cannot express my gratitude. If you ever have a need in the future, just speak the word, and I will give my all to help you. It is a small matter, Jiang Xuan said, waving it off. The information about the curse was not exactly a state secret, and it was only useful to members of the royal clans. Giving them this information was a good way to earn a favor. He was not the type to pick a fight with every genius he met. Having more friends was always a good thing. He looked at the five of them. Anything else? The group took the hint and offered awkward smiles. We have disturbed your evening with our sudden questions. We are truly sorry. At least you realize it, Jiang Xuan said, rolling his eyes. The five men looked even more embarrassed. Jiang Xuan glanced at Kunwu and decided to mention something. Since you are a reincarnated deity, do you know the mountain god? Kunwu froze. He thought about the human monument Jiang Xuan had summoned and realized what he was getting at. He replied with a bitter smile. I certainly know of the mountain god, but the mountain god likely does not know me. Jiang Xuan nodded in understanding. This meant Kunwu's past life was far inferior to the mountain god. That made sense. After all, the mountain god was personally appointed by the human emperor to guard the human monument. While his actual strength might be debatable, his status was extraordinary. We are both from royal clans. Let us stay in touch. I am leaving. Jiang Xuan said his piece to Gu Shintong and walked out. From what he could tell, there were no historical grudges between the Jiang family and Gu Shintong's clan. As fellow members of the royal clans, it was better to keep the lines of communication open. Chapter 354. Is this bloodline even human? The five of them watched Jiang Xuan depart, standing in place with shifting eyes and heavy thoughts. After a long silence, Gu Shintong spoke with a complicated expression. Jiang Xuan's royal blood concentration definitely surpasses mine. If I had to guess, it has likely reached 90%. The other four nodded in solemn agreement. They knew exactly what a 90% concentration signified. Gu Shintong himself only sat at 85%. Kunwu narrowed his eyes and shared his own deductions. Jiang Xuan asking if I knew the mountain god was no random inquiry. Based on the data we gathered, he previously upended the true god's secret realm, subdued the human monument, and gained the submission of the Jiang guards. I suspect that either the mountain god has not perished and is slumbering within that realm, or Jiang Xuan has already inherited the mountain god's legacy and mastered his divine authority. Kunwu paused to analyze further. The possibility of the mountain god still existing in the world is slim. If he were present, he would not have allowed Jiang Xuan to take the human monument. His implication was clear. Jiang Xuan had already taken command of the mountain god's authority. The four others felt a weight settle in their chests. Not only did he possess a 90% royal blood concentration, but he also likely wielded the power of a god. What kind of monster were they dealing with? Kong Chunni, the leader of the Confucian Hall, added to the tension. I sensed the aura of the master on him. It was faint, but I could not mistake the essence of the master's status. What? Lu Fengqi and the others turned to Kong Chunni in shock. You mean? Exactly. The master might still be alive. Kong Chunni's eyes flickered with a mix of excitement and doubt. Our records show that Jiang Xuan disguised himself as Jiang Qiankun and moved the entire Jixia Academy ruins. It is highly probable that the master's remnant soul was within those ruins. If he survives, he is likely by Jiang Xuan's side. Back then, the various factions had descended upon Xintian like refugees. Unwilling to linger, they chose to hibernate within the forbidden zones to recover. However, the Confucian Hall had split. The master of that era believed their purpose was to teach and civilize, and that hiding away betrayed the human emperor's original intent. He insisted on staying behind to rebuild. Several great scholars opposed him, believing strength must be preserved first to fulfill their duties later. The disagreement was irreconcilable. One faction took the majority of resources and students into the forbidden zones, the lineage Kong Chunni belonged to. The other faction, led by the master and a few students, remained in Xintian to establish the Jixia Academy. The aura Kong Chunni sensed could not be the original master from millions of years ago, but the master's title was a station of civilizational power granted by the human emperor. Men perish, but the station does not simply vanish. The master of that time must have passed the title down before falling. This left Kong Chunni conflicted. He had emerged from the Forbidden Zone to compete for opportunities in the Earth Emperor's secret realm and to fulfill his teacher's command to find the master's title. The legitimacy of the Confucian Hall rested with the master. Without him, the hall was merely an empty shell living off ancestral shadows. Now that he had found a lead, he felt a deep sense of hesitation. I strongly advise against making an enemy of Jiang Xuan unless absolutely necessary, Lu Fengqi said gravely. The others nodded, and even Kong Chunni did not object. It was clear that Lu Fengqi held an informal leadership role among these five geniuses. I can see the situation clearly, Kong Chunni said helplessly. Between his bloodline and the mountain god's authority, his potential already exceeds ours. When you gather all those factors into one person, picking a fight with such a prodigy is nothing short of a death wish. At that moment, Xian Yuan Tua, the godling of the Xian Yuan imperial clan, gave a strange smile. I might have some even worse news for you. I believe Jiang Xuan also possesses the Tai Hao bloodline. Tai Hao? The other four were stunned, Kunwu especially so. Are you certain? Xian Yuan Tua shook his head. Tai Hao was a deity personally titled by our ancestor, the Xian Yuan human emperor. My clan has inextricable links to that lineage. Do you think I would sense it incorrectly? Records stated that the ancestor could only become the human emperor with the aid of the Tai Hao clan, whose power rivaled even the Xian Yuan imperial line. Lu Fengqi and the others fell into a stunned silence, their hearts churning like a violent sea. Royal blood, the mountain god's authority, the master at his back, and now the Tai Hao bloodline. After a long while, Lu Fengqi suppressed his shock and spoke with a hint of irony. Does his individual foundation actually exceed the five of us combined? The others were speechless. Looking at it that way, it was true. Gu Shintong had royal blood, but Jiang Xian's was purer. Kunwu was a reincarnated deity, but Jiang Xian's authority was far stronger. Kong Chunyi was a leader of the Confucian Hall, but Jiang Xian had the master behind him. Xian Yuan Tua was of the imperial clan, but Jiang Xian carried the blood of their legendary allies. Accepting the reality, Gu Shintong joked with Lu Fengqi. That just leaves you. Lu Fengqi was a direct descendant of a saint, the biological grandson, in fact. He had been sealed by the saint and only emerged a year ago. As a direct descendant, he enjoyed the saint's providence. While his bloodline was technically below the royal blood, his proximity to the source meant his talent and potential were arguably greater than Gu Shintong's 85% concentration. That is a bit of a comfort, Lu Fengqi joked. At least Jiang Xian's father and grandfather aren't saints. The group laughed, and the suffocating pressure of their shock began to dissipate. But then, Xian Yuan Tua spoke in a low, heavy tone. Do you think Jiang Xian will beat us to it? Will he gain the recognition of the human will and become the young king? The silence returned, and four pairs of resentful eyes turned toward Xian Yuan Tua. You just have to keep talking, don't you? We finally managed to suppress that feeling of powerlessness, and you just had to drag it back up. They were called the ancient humans for a reason. They knew secrets of human history that most orthodoxies in Xiantian had long forgotten, including the matter of the young king. Their appearance at this specific time was ostensibly for the Earth Emperor's secret realm, but their ultimate goal was the position of young king. Achieving that title would grant them a massive advantage in proving their path, reviving their clans, and restoring their former glory. Furthermore, as ancient humans, they felt a responsibility to become the young king, and eventually the human king, to unite and lead humanity against the coming cataclysm and the ever-scheming myriad races. As it stands, Jiang Xian definitely has a better chance than we do, Lu Fengqi said honestly. He paused, his eyes deepening. Our only hope is that because the Jiang family has been in decline for nearly 10 million years, their records are lost. Perhaps Jiang Xian is ignorant of the secrets regarding the young king. Is that likely? Xian Yuan Tua asked, skeptical. The other four turned in unison to glare at him, cold smiles spreading across their faces. I think old Tua has made a lot of progress lately, Lu Fengqi said. I think it is time we had a little sparring session. Agreed, Gu Shintong and the others said, cracking their knuckles. Xian Yuan Tua shrunk back into his collar. Chapter 355, A Night Fit for the Moment. Atop the Taiming Tower, Nangong Mingyue sat alone, her gaze lost in the brilliant moon above. Her cold, piercing eyes had shed their usual arrogance, replaced by a rare softness and a touch of bewilderment. What are you thinking about? Jiang Xian approached and sat beside her. Thinking of the past, the present, and the future, she said softly. The furrow in her brow relaxed slightly at the sound of his voice. Spoken like a true philosopher. Jiang Xian gave her a thumbs up. It is a pity the Confucian Hall hasn't recruited you as a master yet. Nangong Mingyue let out a small laugh and turned to look at him. The confusion in her eyes cleared, replaced by a bright, genuine smile that reached her lips. Under the gentle moonlight, that smile was like a rare flower blooming in the night. It wasn't an overwhelming beauty, but it was deep and refreshing, like a cool spring flowing into a parched field. Jiang Xian felt his heart skip a beat. A tingle of excitement raced through him, and he found himself momentarily dazed. You are beautiful, he blurted out. Nangong Mingyue gave a satisfied smile, but as Jiang Xian continued to stare, she found she couldn't maintain the eye contact. She turned away, a quiet blush creeping up her cheeks. What did those five want with you? She asked, changing the subject. Just some trivial nonsense, not worth mentioning. Let's not let it ruin this perfect moment, Jiang Xian replied. He didn't take the bait. Instead, he reached out and slid an arm around her slender waist. He acted as if nothing out of the ordinary was happening, looking up at the sky. That moon is stunning. It reminds me of you. Nangong Mingyue stiffened for a second, unaccustomed to the touch. But hearing his words, a wave of shyness washed over her, washing away the awkwardness of his embrace. It is beautiful. It looks a bit like the moon back home, she said, her voice trailing off. Are you homesick? Jiang Xuan watched her profile, sensing the lingering uncertainty in her heart. Yes, she nodded. In this atmosphere, and with her absolute trust in him, she naturally lowered her guard and opened her heart. I wonder how the family is doing. Has the battle between the Qingyang sect and Yushan mansion started? I wonder if Master managed to break through to the venerable rank. The Nangong family. Well, that family of yours is doing fine. A few talented youths have reached the spirit initiation stage, and the great elder seems to have stepped into the heaven element realm. Jiang Xian smiled as he continued. As for Yushan mansion, I had some of my clansmen pay them a visit. They should be gone by now. And regarding Senior Beiqing, I intended to send over a Dao medicine to assist his breakthrough. However, he left the Qingyang sect 2 weeks ago. Apparently, he went to a secret realm seeking an opportunity to advance. There has been no word from him since. Nangong Mingyue froze. She turned to meet his gaze, warmth spreading through her chest. Thank you, she whispered. Jiang Xian scratched his head, admitting honestly, there is no need to thank me. I only did the research right before coming to see you. Nangong Mingyue laughed. His honesty didn't lose him any points in her mind. In fact, it added to them. Truthfully, if Jiang Xian had been obsessively monitoring her and her family from the beginning, it would have felt like a burden. She would have felt guilty receiving such intense devotion. She always told herself that affection should be mutual. She couldn't simply accept his feelings without giving something back. To do otherwise would be a lack of respect for him and a lack of responsibility for herself. The past is handled, the present is right here, and the secret realm is under control. So, why don't we talk about the future? Jiang Xian suggested with a grin. The future? Nangong Mingyue's eyes flickered as she fell back into her thoughts. Jiang Xian took the opportunity to pull her closer into his chest. Perhaps she was too lost in her reverie to notice, or perhaps she simply accepted him. Regardless, she didn't resist. She leaned into his embrace, looking at the moon, thinking to herself, this is actually quite comfortable. They stayed like that, leaning against each other under the soft moonlight, as perfect as a painting. After a long silence, Nangong Mingyue spoke again. The future, it won't be like that dream. Jiang Xian blinked and looked down at her. Her large eyes met his. His gaze was filled with suspicion and surprise, while hers held a faint smile. You experienced that dream too? Jiang Xian was stunned. He suddenly remembered the hint from his system about a marriage destiny from a past life. Was this really happening? Something like that, she replied. But to me, it didn't feel like a dream. Of course it wasn't a dream. Jiang Xian's mind was racing. The great dream of reincarnation technique allowed one to inhabit a being's existence and live through their entire life. In other words, that seemingly dramatic dream had actually happened. But it couldn't truly be a past life for him and Nangong Mingyue, could it? That was almost too much to believe. Vague, ethereal things like dreams can't be taken as truth, Jiang Xian said, his voice a bit dry. I have no choice but to believe it. Nangong Mingyue shook her head. She summoned her fire domain, shrinking it down to the size of her palm before holding it out to him. This is a fragment of the Abyss fire domain. Let's assume that dream was my past life. The Abyss fire domain. That is where I was born, lived, and proved my path. That is why I was able to subdue and master it so easily, even though no one in Great Gan has been able to touch it for 1,000,000 years. She looked at him, noticing his shocked expression. Do you know something? Jiang Xian opened his mouth, but found no words. He took a moment to digest the shock before offering an analysis. A past life might exist, but it doesn't mean it is real. What do you mean? She asked, confused. Destiny. Jiang Xian recalled something the life spirits had told him. When powerful beings are reincarnated with their memories intact, it is usually because they made extensive preparations. Those preparations involve one's destiny. If the destiny remains unchanged, the memory can be preserved. Nangong Mingyue frowned slightly. What if the destiny changes? If it changes or splits, it becomes a new destiny. Most of us are like that. We are born as blank slates, Jiang Xian said, relaying the spirit's wisdom. You mean? She thought it over for a moment. My destiny might have appeared because it inherited the destiny of the woman in that dream. I am her, but she is not me. You could understand it that way, Jiang Xian said tentatively. Truthfully, he didn't fully grasp the spirit's explanation of destiny himself, but given his current perspective, it was the best explanation he had. Nangong Mingyue nodded, seemingly satisfied with the answer. The weight on her heart finally lifted. It is too beautiful a night to waste on such abstract things. Seeing that he had smoothed things over, Jiang Xian quickly changed the subject. He leaned down and whispered into her ear, his breath warm against her skin. On such a wonderful night, we should be doing something more appropriate for the moment. Chapter 356, Naming the True Dragon. Perhaps some thought crossed her mind, for Nangong Mingyue's face suddenly flushed a deep crimson. She buried her face shyly in Jiang Xian's chest, hesitating. Is it not a bit too early? Jiang Xian gave a wicked grin. My wife is being eyed by so many people. My poor heart just can't take the stress. Nangong Mingyue didn't know how to respond. so she simply buried herself deeper into his embrace. Jiang Qian knew that in moments like these, he had to be firm. Opportunities like this were rare, and if he didn't seize the moment now, it might never come again. Applying a bit of pressure, he lifted Nangong Mingyue up and forced her to meet his gaze. Then, Jiang Qian leaned in and pressed his lips against hers. Before he could truly savor the moment, a sound like a sudden thunderclap shattered the silence. "Daddy!" The little girl had somehow managed to sneak over. She poked her head out right between the two of them, looking back and forth at their pressed lips with wide, inquisitive eyes. "Is this how you make babies?" Startled, Nangong Mingyue hurriedly pushed Jiang Qian away. Once she regained her composure, she glanced at the girl and then at Jiang Qian, a cold smile touching her lips. "Daddy? Your daughter?" Jiang Qian broke into a cold sweat instantly. Not now. How did this happen? He had feared the girl might cause a misunderstanding with Nangong Mingyue, so he had specifically asked the ancestor, Jiang Qiankun, to keep an eye on her and keep her away from the Taiming Tower. But here she was. He shot a fierce glare at the girl. "Just wait until we get home." Realizing she had made a mistake, the girl stuck her tongue out and retreated behind Jiang Qian. She tugged at his sleeve, peeking out at Nangong Mingyue with blinking eyes. "Is this the first mother? She seems a bit scary. Honestly, third mother is much nicer." "Let me explain." Jiang Qian felt a massive headache coming on. Seeing the chill in Nangong Mingyue's eyes, he spoke rapidly. "Actually, she isn't my daughter." "No. Wait, she is my daughter, but also not." "Damn it." Jiang Qian felt like his tongue was tied. The pressure was immense. Nangong Mingyue crossed her arms, wearing an expression that said she was waiting to see exactly how he intended to talk his way out of this. "Oh, silly daddy." The little girl couldn't stand it anymore and hopped out to face Nangong Mingyue. "First mother, I am a true dragon. I only hatched because of daddy, so I wasn't actually born from him." "A true dragon?" Nangong Mingyue's eyes widened slightly, a flash of surprise crossing her pupils. She looked closely at the girl, particularly at the little green turtle perched on her shoulder. The turtle gave her a faint sense of unease, which proved the girl was no ordinary child. If she truly was a dragon, it made a certain amount of sense. She turned back to Jiang Qian for confirmation. "Is that true?" Jiang Qian nodded vigorously. "Exactly like that." He then proceeded to tell Nangong Mingyue the entire story of the girl's origin and how they had met. "I suppose I believe you for now." Nangong Mingyue wrinkled her nose and shot Jiang Qian a sharp look. She realized she was acting like a jealous young woman and laughed at herself. She hadn't truly doubted him. She just wanted to see his reaction and know that he cared about her feelings. It was strange. Even though this was their first real meeting, there was no sense of distance. In her subconscious actions, she was already relying on him. "Perhaps I decided on him the moment he chose not to break our engagement," she thought to herself, biting her lower lip. Jiang Qian breathed a secret sigh of relief, wiping cold sweat from his brow. The ancients were right. Women truly are like tigers. "First mother, daddy told me all about you a long time ago. He said you were a goddess descended to earth, as beautiful as a celestial being, with a face that could stop a heart." The girl was quick-witted. She ran up to Nangong Mingyue and looked up at her with wide eyes. "But I think daddy was lying. You are clearly much prettier than a celestial being." Nangong Mingyue was delighted. She reached out and flicked the girl's nose. "And who taught you to say that?" Her gaze drifted back to Jiang Qian, full of silent interrogation. He certainly had a lot of tricks up his sleeve, even teaching children how to flatter. Jiang Qian scratched his head awkwardly. He swore to heaven he had never taught the girl those lines. However, the little brat was clever beyond her years, so he wasn't entirely surprised she could come up with them on her own. Nangong Mingyue picked the girl up and asked affectionately, "What is your name?" The girl sucked on her finger as the realization hit her. "Oh right, I don't have a name yet." She turned toward Jiang Qian, her eyes filled with resentment. Nangong Mingyue followed her gaze, looking confused. "You haven't named her yet?" Jiang Qian let out a forced laugh. "She is your daughter too." "Naturally. I had to wait so we could decide on a name together." "Really?" Nangong Mingyue was suspicious. She could sense that Jiang Qian's smile was a bit strained. Of course it is true. There was no way Jiang Qian would admit he had simply forgotten. Back then, he suspected the girl was an old monster in a child's body and was too busy being cautious to think of a name. Later, even after he accepted her, the matter had just slipped his mind. He couldn't say that out loud, so he doubled down. "For a girl, it is always better for the mother to choose the name. That is why I have been waiting for this meeting, so you could give her a beautiful one." "Yes, that is exactly why," Jiang Qian said with absolute certainty. The girl wrinkled her nose, staring at Jiang Qian with annoyance. Knowing her father, she knew perfectly well he had forgotten. But she was smart. She knew better than to expose him now. She sent a telepathic message instead. "Daddy, 3 stalks of Dao medicine." "1 stalk." Jiang Qian replied secretly, keeping his face neutral. "No way, 2 stalks." "Fine, 3 stalks of king medicine." No, no, no. 5 stalks. Then just 1 stalk." "No, stop, absolutely not. At least 3. Deal." 3 stalks of king medicine, Jiang Qian replied calmly. "Deal." The girl's eyes lit up, and she nearly jumped out of Nangong Mingyue's arms in excitement. Then she paused, scratching her head. Wait, how did it become king medicine? First mother, daddy is bullying me. The girl decisively chose to snitch. Nangong Mingyue looked confused, but Jiang Xuan was fast. He stepped forward in a flash, took the girl from Nangong Mingyue's arms, and covered her mouth. He smiled at Nangong Mingyue and said, "Go ahead and think of a name for the child." Nangong Mingyue didn't suspect anything and fell into thought. Just then, a peculiar surge of energy rippled through the horizon. It was the Earth Emperor's secret realm. Endless laws of the great Tao manifested, causing the world to undergo a strange transformation. The weather shifted instantly. Driven by an inexplicable power, the blazing sun rose high into the sky to hang alongside the bright moon. The sun and moon shining together. Countless people were startled by this rare phenomenon. They looked up in awe before breaking into joyous cheers. The Earth Emperor's secret realm had finally opened. Nangong Mingyue withdrew her gaze and looked at Jiang Xuan, smiling. "Do not be surprised, and do not worry." Nangong Ming's voice grew cold. "If any of them dare show a hint of treachery, I will personally send them to the ancestors to kowtow and beg for forgiveness." Before this, the ancestor had summoned the elders of every branch for a harsh reprimand, warning them to discard their petty schemes. He had even scolded the current emperor. The emperor had been wise and martial his whole life, yet as he approached his limit, he seemed to have grown senile. Did he truly believe that sacrificing the future of the Nangong family and the Great Gan dynasty was worth a few resources to break through to the true God realm? Nangong Mingda had seen through the emperor's desperation and hoped his stern lecture would halt such madness. Nangong Mingyue understood the hidden meaning in the ancestor's words. She felt a sense of relief and replied gratefully, "I thank the ancestor for his trouble. If that is the case, let us set out immediately." "Good." Nangong Mingda agreed, then sent a private transmission to Jiang Xuan. "Young Master Jiang, as you head to the Earth Emperor's secret realm, please take care of Nangong Mingyue. As for the pest from the Yao and Qin families, rest assured, my stance is the stance of Great Gan. If anyone dares to raise a dissenting voice, I will strike them down myself." Jiang Xuan raised an eyebrow, feeling curious. This true God ancestor seemed remarkably concerned with his personal attitude. Had the man been beaten by a Jiang ancestor in the past? No, the timing didn't fit. Regardless, the old man was fiercely protecting Mingyue and had even expelled the Qin and Yao families. For now, Jiang Xuan found no fault with him. Since the ancestor was showing such goodwill, Jiang Xuan responded in kind. "Senior, rest assured, Nangong Mingyue is my fiancée. I will not let any harm come to her." Hearing this promise, Nangong Mingda felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He departed to finalize the preparations for the young geniuses. Despite being a true god, the ancestor was handling these minor details personally. This reflected both his devotion to Nangong Mingyue and his deep wariness of Jiang Xuan. It wasn't just the Jiang family he feared. Even though Jiang Xuan was backed by a potential god venerable, that alone wouldn't make a true god so humble. The Great Gan dynasty had its own foundations and connections in the upper worlds. If a clan like the immortal Qin family could thrive after committing such atrocities, surely the Great Gan could stand its ground. His caution stemmed from what Jiang Xuan had done at Brightlight City. Guiding 100,000 souls through reincarnation was a staggering feat that even a saint might struggle to achieve. In the ancestor's eyes, Jiang Xuan was, at the very least, a reincarnated saint. "What a mess," Nangong Mingda cursed silently. "A true god like me has to run around cleaning up the mess made by these fools." If the emperor and the other idiots hadn't bungled things, Jiang Xuan would already be a loyal son-in-law of the Great Gan. There would be no need for this constant maneuvering. Nangong Mingyue turned to Jiang Xuan. "The Earth Emperor's secret realm is open. What are your plans?" "What plans could I have? I will go and take a look," Jiang Xuan said with a shrug. Jiang Hong and the fourth elder were heading to the realm under the guise of following the fake Jiang Qiankun to catch the mastermind. Jiang Xuan intended to help. In truth, he mostly wanted to see who was foolish enough to try impersonating Jiang Qiankun. Plus, if there were treasures to be found, he wouldn't mind picking a few up along the way. "Shall we go together?" Nangong Mingyue asked with a faint smile. Jiang Xuan looked at her and feigned a look of shock. "Of course. Why wouldn't we? Surely you aren't tired of me already?" He clutched his chest in mock agony. "Woman, you have wounded me." Nangong Mingyue panicked for a split second, thinking he was actually upset. But when she saw Jiang Zhao's unimpressed expression, she realized he was teasing her. She kicked him lightly and let out a soft huff. "Act your age." Then, her smile turned dangerous. "I haven't settled the score with you yet." What did Jiang Zhao mean by first mother? If I am the first, does that mean there is a second and a third? Jiang Xuan froze. He went rigid as he wondered if a woman's intuition was truly that accurate. He shot a desperate look at Jiang Zhao, begging for a distraction. Jiang Zhao simply stuck out her tongue, made a face at him, and ran away. Well, Jiang Xuan braced himself and turned back to Nangong Mingyue. He suddenly took on a very serious expression. "Wife, we need to move fast. There are so many treasures in that secret realm. We can't let others get there first. Without giving her a chance to respond, he turned and hurried off. I'll go gather my people. Chapter 358. Young Master Jiang, a model for us all. Gathering people? Nangong Mingyue blinked in confusion, unsure of what Jiang Xuan meant by that. Could the two of them together not sweep through the Earth Emperor's secret realm? She possessed that much confidence. On one hand, she knew her own power. On the other, she trusted Jiang Xuan's strength even more. Why would he need to call for backup? Furthermore, the Earth Emperor's secret realm had restrictions allowing only those below the venerable realm to enter. Among those at that level, how many in Xintian were worth Jiang Xuan personally recruiting? There were certainly a few, but they were mostly the top geniuses of various orthodoxies. Since they were all competitors, how could Jiang Xuan possibly convince them to help? At that moment, Jiang Zhao slipped back and took Nangong Mingyue's hand to show her affection. Nangong Mingyue patted the girl's head dotingly and asked in a soft voice, "Tell me, does your father have other women out there?" Jiang Zhao's large eyes flickered. She had been ready to speak freely to get revenge on her father for tricking her earlier, but before she could speak, a warning from the life spirit echoed in her mind. "My little ancestor, be careful. Watch your words." Jiang Zhao immediately swallowed her words and shook her head like a rattle. "You are overthinking it. Father has no one else. My bloodline memory tells me that future great masters like him usually have many wives and concubines. I just assumed he would be the same, so I spoke without thinking." Jiang Zhao looked at Nangong Mingyue and began acting cute with remarkable speed and wit. "Is that really the case?" Nangong Mingyue asked for confirmation. "Truly." Jiang Zhao nodded repeatedly. "What a good girl." Nangong Mingyue smiled and patted the girl's head. She took out a golden, glowing fire seed and handed it to the child. "I do not have much on me at the moment, but take this phoenix flame seed. It will help temper your bloodline and stabilize your foundation. In a crisis, it can even save your life." This was a fire seed from the fire domain with the power of nirvana. There were only 12 in existence. She had given 10 to the moon fairy to help reshape her soul and body, and she had integrated one into her own nirvana phoenix physique to perfect her constitution. She had intended to nurture this final seed into her own natal flame, but now, only a gift of this caliber felt appropriate for Jiang Zhao. Jiang Zhao was Jiang Xian's daughter, which meant she was her daughter too. However, the closeness of a relationship had to be built personally. She wasn't certain if there really was a second or third mother, but she hoped not. If there were. "Thank you." Jiang Zhao's eyes lit up. Her intuition told her this phoenix flame was a treasure that would benefit her immensely. She reached out with her small hands to accept it. Nangong Mingyue's tone shifted slightly. "What did you call me?" "Oh, I mean mother." The clever girl understood instantly and changed her address. "Thank you, mother. Good girl." Nangong Mingyue smiled as she pressed the fire seed into Jiang Zhao's body, helping her claim ownership. Nurture this flame well. With time, it can evolve into a flame of nirvana. Whether for attacking or protecting yourself, it is a peerless treasure. Understood. Jiang Zhao nodded and hugged Nangong Mingyue affectionately. "Mother is so kind. Not like daddy, who only knows how to bully me." Privately, she thought to herself, "First mother is quite scary. In comparison, I still like third mother better. She is so gentle, but first mother is so generous. Well, I suppose I can like her too." Resting on Jiang Zhao's shoulder, the life spirit breathed a sigh of relief. That was close. It was going mad with anxiety. Why was everyone around its master so terrifying? The master was the successor of that great being. The young mistress was a pure-blooded true dragon, and now even the mistress was a monster. "Help!" Lu Fengqi looked at Jiang Xian's arm draped over his shoulder with a strange expression. Was this person not a bit too familiar? The other four also looked on oddly. They had been preparing to leave for the secret realm when Jiang Xian suddenly returned and grabbed Lu Fengqi's neck without a word. Their rapport was so natural that an outsider might have thought they were lifelong best friends. "Yes, just a small favor," Jiang Xian said with a nod. He glanced at the five of them, his eyes finally landing on Gu Shentong with a smile. "I told you the secret of the bloodline curse. Do you not owe me a favor?" Gu Shentong was puzzled but nodded sincerely. "That is true. I am using that favor now to ask for your help. Is that a problem?" The five of them were stunned. They couldn't imagine what kind of help Jiang Xian would need from them. Putting aside the unfathomable Jiang family, even the Great Gan dynasty and Nangong Mingyue alone could solve almost any problem he faced. Why come to them? It made no sense. They were geniuses from the forbidden zones with ancient backgrounds, but they wouldn't claim to be so much stronger than the Great Gan that they could solve problems the dynasty couldn't. "May I ask what you need us to do?" Lu Fengqi spoke cautiously. To show a bit of friendliness, he changed his address from young Master Jiang to Brother Jiang. The man's foundation was terrifyingly deep. If they could befriend him, it would be for the best. However, he didn't dare agree immediately. They knew enough about Jiang Xian's reputation for being a bit of a trickster. If they agreed blindly, they might end up being sold by him. "Relax. Like I said, it is a small matter. I won't set you up." Jiang Xian saw their caution and offered a few words of comfort before lowering his voice. "I need you to protect two people for me." The five of them frowned. unable to follow his logic. Protect people? Within the borders of Great Gan, keeping two people safe should be as easy as a single word from Jiang Xuan. Why would he need them? Maintaining his guard, Lu Fengqi asked. Who are these people we are to protect? Goddess Zhao Fuyao of the Zhao family and Goddess Luo Xinglan of the Desolate Heaven. Jiang Xuan looked left and right to ensure they were alone before whispering. Use whatever method you like, but make sure those two do not run into me before we enter the secret realm. And most importantly, you must not let Nangong Mingyue see them. Jiang Xuan thought for a moment and realized that might not be enough. He quickly changed his mind. No, let's make it simpler. Intercept them. Do whatever it takes to keep them from going to the secret realm at all. The five of them were speechless. They weren't idiots. They knew exactly what Jiang Xuan was getting at. They were struck with sudden amazement. Nangong Mingyue was already like a goddess with beauty that surpassed all living beings. For Jiang Xuan to have her was already enough to make the world envious. Yet he was also involved with the goddesses of the Zhao family and the Desolate Heaven. Was his luck with women really this overflowing? Brother Jiang. Lu Fengqi was truly impressed. He cupped his fists toward Jiang Xuan with deep respect. You are a model for us all. Chapter 359. Within Great Gan, who dares harm the prince consort? Understand? Jiang Xuan was stunned. As the meaning of their words registered, he broke into a cold sweat. He waved his hands frantically in explanation. You have it all wrong. He had slipped away under the guise of gathering people to escape a crisis, but he knew Jiang Zhao all too well. That little glutton would say anything for a bite to eat. Whether it was true or not, she would spill every secret she thought she knew. He was almost certain that Nangong Mingyue would soon learn exactly who the second and third mothers were from Jiang Zhao. He had to cut this off at the source. The so-called second and third mothers were nothing more than figments of Jiang Zhao's imagination. However, he knew that trying to use logic with an angry woman was a death wish. His only choice was to slightly sacrifice Zhao Fuyao and Luo Xinglan. If a total disaster broke out, he truly would not be able to handle it. The most frustrating part was that he was completely innocent. He had done nothing wrong, yet he was facing the ultimate penalty. We understand. We truly do. Lu Fengqi and the other four gave Jiang Xuan a look of deep sympathy and understanding. Jiang Xuan's face darkened. You understand nothing. Lu Fengqi waved a hand dismissively and agreed. Since Brother Jiang has asked, there is no reason for us to refuse such a small matter. There is no need to count this as a favor. Consider this a gesture of friendship between the five of us and Brother Jiang. Gu Shintong and the others nodded in agreement. They shared no direct conflict of interest or grievances with Jiang Xuan. Helping him with a small task to establish a rapport was a win-win situation. After all, this man possessed a foundation more terrifying than the five of them combined. Who could imagine how far he would go in the future? If they could befriend him, why wouldn't they? Even in an age of great competition where every genius sought to prove their invincibility and chase the rare opportunities of the era, they were naturally rivals. They were destined to view each other with hostility and compete in secret. But true invincibility belonged to the very few, and the greatest opportunities were ethereal and hard to claim. Under such circumstances, ensuring they had a friend who was likely to become a future titan was a wise move. Furthermore, it did not directly conflict with their own paths to power. If they eventually met at the summit, they would simply fight a fair battle. They were not cowards. They had forged invincible Dao hearts and did not fear a challenge. Of course, if the gap in strength became too wide, they knew when to yield. No favor required. Jiang Xuan found himself unable to read these five. Were the ancient humans truly this simple? Then I shall trouble you. Jiang Xuan did not overthink it. He cupped his fists and signaled for them to move quickly. Lu Fengqi and his companions exchanged a look, caught between laughter and tears. Since they had given their word, they did not linger. They bid him farewell and took flight from the Taiming Tower. They were no longer heading toward the Earth Emperor's secret realm. Their new targets were Zhao Fuyao and Luo Xinglan. Watching the five depart, Jiang Xuan wiped the sweat from his brow and let out a long sigh of relief. He hoped this desperate plan would work. For some reason, the words his mother had spoken to him suddenly surfaced in his mind. Jiang Xuan smacked his lips, feeling a sudden surge of sympathy for his father. What kind of bitter life had the old man been living all these years? Wait, Jiang Xuan froze, his expression turning miserable. His father had made it through, but his own struggle was just beginning. As if unable to watch the spectacle any longer, Ancestor Jiang Changsho stepped out from the void, his face full of disbelief. Boy, don't you think you are taking this a bit too far? Never mind that this whole thing is a misunderstanding. Even if it were true, what of it? A great man having a few wives and concubines is perfectly normal. Besides, Nangong Mingyue is only your fiancée. She hasn't even married into the family yet. Jiang Xuan glanced at Jiang Changsho with a sour look. This is all your fault. I told you to keep a close eye on Jiang Zhao, but you practically delivered her to the front door. Jiang Changsho coughed sheepishly. While he hadn't literally delivered her, he had secretly encouraged her to show up. He couldn't stand seeing Jiang Xuan turn out like his father, a powerful man who was terrified of his own wife. It was undignified. Your father only had you because he was so afraid of your mother. If not for that, our Jiang family would have dominated Xintian long ago. Jiang Changsho deftly changed the subject, speaking with gravity. You cannot follow in your father's footsteps. Jiang Xian fell silent, staring at Jiang Changsho for a long time. He stared until the ancestor began to feel fidgety, as if he were about to strike someone. Finally, Jiang Xian withdrew his gaze and sighed. He pointed to the sword on his back and spoke with total sincerity. Ancestor, I actually believe it now. When you stole that true god artifact back in the day, you really were just trying to reject her. Jiang Changsho was speechless. Why did that sound like an insult? What exactly do you mean by that? Jiang Changsho asked, suppressing the urge to hit the boy. Jiang Xian pursed his lips and glanced toward the upper right, Nangong Mingyue's general direction. He turned back to Jiang Changsho and spoke softly. Ancestor, sometimes women don't care about the result. They care about the process and the actions taken. On the other hand, we men do certain things not just to achieve a goal, but to show our attitude and our heart. Jiang Changsho was utterly bewildered. He stared at Jiang Xian blankly. What kind of riddles are you talking? Jiang Xian shook his head helplessly and patted Jiang Changsho's shoulder. All I can say is that those who understand, understand. There is no need to force it if you don't. You have lived a carefree life. There is no need to start studying these things now. Anyway, Jiang Xian glanced toward a certain area and chuckled. It is not like you can regain your former glory at your age anyway. Jiang Changsho's face went black. Even if he didn't fully grasp the riddles, he was still a man. He understood that last jab perfectly. A bolt of ink-colored tribulation lightning, as thick as an arm, appeared in Jiang Changsho's hand. He pressed the other end against Jiang Xian's neck. A heart-stopping aura of destruction instantly filled the Taiming Tower. Your skin is getting a bit itchy lately, isn't it? Jiang Changsho said with a terrifying, frozen smile. Jiang Xian's smile vanished. Even with his lightning domain at the middle stage, the destructive power pressed against his throat made his heart race with fear. Now, calm down. I was just joking. Jiang Xian laughed nervously. Jiang Changsho sneered, prepared to give the boy a lesson he would never forget. But at that exact moment, Nangong Mingda was alerted by the lightning aura. He tore through the void and arrived instantly, activating the holy array of the Sky Palace. He glared at Jiang Changsho and shouted a warning. Sir, this is Great Gone. Even if you are a true god, this is not a place where you can act wildly. I advise you to release young Master Jiang immediately, or else, regardless of which faction stands behind you, even if you come from that other world, you will not escape death today. Jiang Xian was silent. Jiang Changsho was silent. Chapter 360. Jiang Qiankun has arrived. Jiang Changsho shot a fierce glare at Jiang Xian before dispelling the tribulation lightning. His expression remained incredibly sour. He swore he had never felt this humiliated in his entire life. Ancestor, please do not be alarmed. This senior is one of our own. Nangong Mingyue entered and explained the situation to Nangong Mingda. She then turned to Jiang Changsho and bowed respectfully. I am Nangong Mingyue. I offer my greetings to Ancestor Jiang Changsho. Jiang Changsho. You are Jiang Changsho? Nangong Mingda froze in shock. He quickly deactivated the holy array of the Sky Palace and stepped down, offering awkward apologies. He had only awakened because the Heavenly King reported an intruder and had not been present for the event of Jiang Changsho braving the tribulation. He was not familiar with the man's aura, and since his own era predated Jiang Changsho's, they had never crossed paths. Furthermore, his intense concern for Jiang Xian's safety had led to this embarrassing misunderstanding. Although Jiang Changsho was still fuming, he knew how to behave in polite company. His expression softened as he looked at Nangong Mingyue. He nodded and used a wave of his hand to gently lift her from her bow. Meeting for the first time has certainly resulted in a bit of a joke, he said dryly. The ancestor was only worried about Jiang Xian's safety. I hope you can understand, Nangong Mingyue said, acting as a mediator. Do not worry, I am not so blind as to miss that. Jiang Changsho shook his head. He looked at Nangong Mingyue, thought for a moment, and added, since Jiang Xian has chosen you, as his elder, I cannot let you walk away empty-handed. I see you have mastered the fire domain. I have a true god weapon infused with the great Tao of fire that might be of use to you. Jiang Changsho summoned an ancient jade seal wrapped in golden divine flames. A phantom of a phoenix seemed to flap its wings within the seal, radiating a terrifying heat. Jiang Xian raised an eyebrow. Just how many treasures did this ancestor have? He shot a meaningful look at Jiang Zhao, who was being led by Nangong Mingyue. The girl caught the signal and nodded solemnly. This father-daughter duo clearly had more work to do to drain the old man. Wait, isn't that the phoenix seal of my great Gon? Nangong Mingda was stunned. His eyes widened in utter confusion. The phoenix seal was one of the ancestral heirlooms of the Nangong family. After the founding of the dynasty, the first emperor established it as the imperial seal of the Great Gon immortal dynasty. That object should currently be in the hands of the reigning emperor. How could Jiang Changsho be holding it? What? Jiang Changsho froze as well. Then, the realization hit him. Damn it, he had grabbed the wrong thing. The version of the story he told Jiang Xuan was that he had been cornered by the 9 great princes of Great Gan because he won a bet against Nangong Bashuan for a Dao medicine, and the emperor had played foul. What he had conveniently left out was that after winning the medicine, he had helped himself to a few extra items. Specifically, this phoenix seal. As the master of an immortal dynasty, Nangong Bashuan had to save face. If word got out that the imperial seal had been pickpocketed, he would have been the laughingstock of the world and his throne would have been at risk. He had no choice but to keep it secret and use the excuse that Jiang Qiankun had to be defeated before being allowed to leave as a cover for the 9 princes to hunt him down. May I ask, fellow Taoist Jiang, why the phoenix seal of my great Gan is in your possession? Nangong Mingyue asked. He was baffled but tried to remain polite and friendly. Nangong Mingyue also looked at Jiang Qiankun, her eyes filled with confusion. She knew the phoenix seal well. As the imperial seal, it was traditionally held by the emperor. In fact, on the day of her future coronation, she was supposed to receive it from the current emperor. Receiving it now from an ancestor of the Jiang family felt very strange indeed. Jiang Qiankun could no longer keep up appearances. How was he supposed to explain this? If he told the truth, he would look like a common thief, and a thief who stole from his own in-laws at that. Jiang Qiankun gave a series of awkward coughs. He suddenly thrust the phoenix seal into Nangong Mingyue's body, helping her instantly claim ownership of it. Then he activated the first move of his self-created 36 ultimate techniques, running away. Jiang Qiankun vanished into thin air, leaving Jiang Xuan and the others staring at each other in silence. Nangong Mingyue summoned the phoenix seal and looked at Jiang Xuan, unsure of what to do. Jiang Xuan's lip twitched. He understood the ancestor's character all too well. It was quite obvious how that seal ended up in his hands. He had always thought it was strange that an emperor would sacrifice his reputation over a single Dao medicine. Now, the pieces fit. He could only admire how incredibly skilled the ancestor was at the art of survival and petty theft. Jiang Xuan smacked his lips and moved to cover for the old man. Just keep it. It was going to be yours sooner or later. Mastering it a few days early won't hurt anything. Nangong Mingyue added, young Master Jiang is right. The princess will eventually rule Great Gan. Refining and mastering the phoenix seal ahead of time is a good thing. Because of Jiang Xuan's presence, the ancestor decided not to dig any deeper into the details. However, he made a mental note to personally ask his descendant, Nangong Bashuan, how on earth he managed to lose the imperial seal of the nation. Seeing the situation, Nangong Mingyue nodded and quietly put the seal away. Let us go. I have a feeling all the good treasures in the Earth Emperor's secret realm are waiting for my wife to collect them, Jiang Xuan said with a wink. Nangong Mingyue smiled, then shook her head gently. The entire Earth Emperor's secret realm is yours. Anyone who tries to take it dies. Her tone was calm, yet it carried an undeniable authority and dominance. It was the voice of an empress who ruled over all. Jiang Xuan had not hidden his request for help from Lu Fengqi and the others, so she had seen everything. As Jiang Xuan had noted, women often care more about the gesture than the result. Did she care if Jiang Xuan had other women or these supposed second and third mothers? Yes, she cared, but she didn't care enough to start a slaughter. As Jiang Qiankun had said, it was common for powerful men to have multiple partners in this world. Even if she wished to have Jiang Xuan all to herself, she could not realistically demand it as a strict condition. However, she needed to see his effort. She could acknowledge the reality of the world, but Jiang Xuan could not simply impose it on her without regard for her feelings. She knew Jiang Xuan had asked those 5 for help specifically for her benefit. Jiang Xuan knew she knew it, too. But that didn't change the intent behind the action. He was showing his heart and his commitment to her. That was enough. The last bit of hesitation in her heart had finally vanished. Jiang Xuan was the one she chose and the one she was willing to lean on. Jiang Zhao blinked at Nangong Mingyue, feeling a bit nervous. First mother is terrifying. No, mother is terrifying. The life spirit on the girl's shoulder also shrank back into its shell under the weight of Nangong Mingyue's aura. It trembled at the thought of how formidable its master's wife truly was. Jiang Xuan was also a bit taken aback by her sudden intensity. Coming back to his senses, he grabbed her hand and laughed. Don't be like that. You are putting a lot of pressure on me. The regal authority vanished instantly. Nangong Mingyue smiled at him and said, of course, we will do exactly as you said first. Nangong Mingyue watched the two of them and suddenly felt like an outsider. He tactfully withdrew and summoned Nangong Fengtian and the other geniuses, ordering them to prepare to follow the princess to the secret realm. 15 minutes later, everyone was assembled. Jiang Chun was among the ranks. Nangong Fengtian took the initiative to summon the Great Gan warship. He was quite sensible and understood his current status. Doing more work now might lead to more benefits inside the realm later. The group boarded the ship and headed toward the Earth Emperor's secret realm. It was located at the Broken Heaven Divine Peak, 10,000 miles west of the Sky Palace. It was not a short trip, but at the warship's top speed and with unlimited spirit stones, they arrived in a quarter of an hour. Princess, we are approaching the Earth Emperor's secret realm, Nangong Fengtian reported. Jiang Xuan, Nangong Mingyue, and the others stepped onto the deck to look ahead. Amidst a sky full of holy phenomena, the grand silhouette of the secret realm's palace had already begun to emerge. The space between heaven and earth was filled with immortal ships, and the surrounding geniuses watched Jiang Qiankun with burning rage, yet most kept their anger bottled up and moved aside. The Longevity Jiang family currently possessed unparalleled prestige. Furthermore, after seeing the Great Gan dynasty protect Jiang Xuan so fiercely at the Taiming Tower, they knew it was unwise to provoke the Jiang family on Great Gan soil before entering the secret realm. This restraint, however, did not apply to everyone. Top-tier talents like Qin Kun and Yao Wuxian were in no mood for patience. Having just been unceremoniously expelled by Nangong Ming, they were looking for a target for their fury. The sight of the Jiang family ship and the insufferably arrogant Jiang Qiankun was the perfect spark. They had tolerated Jiang Xuan because of the true god standing behind him. But who did this other brat think he was? The Longevity Jiang family? What an impressive display. Qin Kun looked at Jiang Qiankun and let out a cold snort. He waved a hand and gave a chilling command to Qin Miao. Go and bring me that boy's head. Understood. Qin Miao replied sharply before flying out. He summoned a peak grade Dao artifact and charged toward Jiang Qiankun. He was simmering with the same resentment as his leader after being kicked out of the Taiming Tower. He had been unable to strike at Jiang Xuan then, but now there was nothing stopping him. Besides, this was just Jiang Qiankun. Why was he acting so high and mighty? He was clearly looking for death. The Dao artifact whistled through the air, trailing a sinister aura that shook the sky and manifested the phantom of a divine general. Qin Miao activated his Qin family bloodline, causing his energy to boil and glow with a brilliant amber hue. This power flooded into the phantom, giving it the appearance of solid flesh and bone. The divine general became tangible, its face cold and indifferent. It raised its palms, wreathed in the artifact's killing intent, and struck down toward Jiang Qiankun's ship. The sheer force of the attack sent ripples through the void. Jiang Qiankun narrowed his eyes. He sensed a familiar aura within his opponent. Another spirit race descendant? He felt a flicker of joy, but it was quickly buried under a wave of violence. You dare! Jiang Qiankun took a single step off the ship. Laws followed his movement, and a profound, ancient aura radiated from his body. He reached out his right hand, channeling a strange, gloomy power, and made a simple clenching motion. The divine general shattered into dust instantly. Qin Miao's expression twisted in shock. He cried out instinctively. How is this possible? That was my family's bloodline's supernatural power. Jiang Qiankun sneered with pure disdain. With such a thin concentration of spirit race blood, even the most powerful technique wouldn't manifest a 10,000th of its true potential in your hands. He reached out again. The surrounding laws shifted at his whim as he closed his hand toward Qin Miao once more. A series of sickening cracks filled the air as an indescribable, twisted force wrapped around Qin Miao. The Qin warrior turned pale, desperately triggering every trump card and defensive measure he possessed, struggling like a madman. It was useless. With a dull explosion, Qin Miao was reduced to a spray of gore that rained down from the sky. The watching crowd gasped. Their pupils shrank in terror. Qin Miao was a genius from the upper world with a powerful cultivation at the 6th level of the heavenly element realm. Yet, he hadn't even been a match for a single move from Jiang Qiankun. He had been erased in an instant. Wasn't the Jiang family supposed to be in decline? Everyone assumed that producing a monster like Jiang Xuan had exhausted the clan's providence. Where did Jiang Qiankun get this terrifying strength? How much was the Longevity Jiang family truly hiding? Qin Kun's face shifted as he stared at Jiang Qiankun, his eyes brimming with lethal intent. Sensing the gaze, Jiang Qiankun looked back. He studied Qin Kun for a moment and felt his brow twitch. He could sense the spirit race blood within this one. It was highly concentrated, reaching at least 80%. This was an unexpected harvest. Jiang Qiankun smiled thinly. You are my prey, he said softly. I will be waiting for you inside the secret realm. He turned and stepped back onto the ship, speaking calmly to Jiang Hong and the others. Full speed ahead. Kill anyone who blocks the path. Jiang Hong and the 4th elder exchanged a subtle, knowing look, but said nothing. Following the impostor's command, they pushed the ship to its limit and charged toward the entrance. The surrounding geniuses scrambled to get out of the way, carving out a wide path. The Jiang family was far too aggressive. They were not to be provoked. Under the watchful eyes of the entire region, Jiang Qiankun's party was the first to enter the Earth Emperor's secret realm, completely unopposed. Qin Kun watched them disappear, his rage dancing in his eyes. His killing intent had solidified into a frost that seemed to freeze the very air. Give me everything we have on Jiang Qiankun, Qin Kun said to Ing Sihai. His voice was like ice. Everything. Ing Sihai was secretly enjoying the spectacle. Although he had been forced onto the Qin family's boat, he considered himself a mere spectator. He replied evenly. Jiang Qiankun is one of the 4 pillars of the Jiang family and a prospective saint son of the Yin Yang sacred ground. He lost the position of young patriarch to Jiang Xuan and subsequently went into secluded training. He later resurfaced and overturned the true god's secret realm, seized the human monument, killed a void god, and climbed to 41st on the hidden dragon rank. Seized the human monument? Qin Kun narrowed his eyes and glared at Ing Sihai. Are you playing with me? The human monument is in Jiang Xian's hands. Ing Sihai shrugged. That is why some speculate that the Jiang Qiankun who overturned the secret realm was actually Jiang Xian in disguise. As for the truth, only the two of them know for certain. In truth, anyone with access to the intelligence from the demon den knew the reality, but Ing Sihai saw no reason to share that. Why not sit back and watch them tear each other apart? The information he gave was technically correct, it was just missing a few pieces. Qin Kun lowered his gaze, lost in thought. After a moment, he asked, have Jiang Qiankun and Jiang Xian ever been seen in the same place at the same time? Ing Sihai blinked, feigning a moment of recollection. Now that you mention it, I don't believe they have. He added silently to himself that Jiang Bei had certainly been seen with Jiang Qiankun, but that was irrelevant here. Huh, just as I thought. Qin Kun broke into a cold smile, his eyes shining with a sense of perceived brilliance. Jiang Xian is merely a clone of Jiang Qiankun. Our Qin family archives state that the spirit race bloodline can awaken powerful supernatural abilities. One of our ancestors once awakened a clone technique, allowing one soul to inhabit two bodies and achieving eternal fame. Jiang Qiankun must have awakened something similar. He uses the name Jiang Xian for his clone to appear weak, while his true self hides in the shadows to seize opportunities. Ing Sihai was stunned. Where did this line of reasoning even come from? That seems unlikely, doesn't it? Even if he awakened a bloodline power, what are the odds it would be that specific one? Qin Kun glanced at Ing Sihai with disdain, as if mocking his lack of vision. Then how do you explain how the Jiang Qiankun, who lost the family competition, now possesses power far beyond Jiang Xian? We both saw Jiang Xian at the Taiming Tower. With his early heavenly element strength, could he have insta-killed Qin Miao? And how do you explain the human monument being in Jiang Xian's hands when it was Jiang Qiankun who took it? Most importantly, Qin Kun narrowed his eyes and spoke with absolute conviction. A declining clan like the Jiang family does not have enough providence to support two such powerful monsters at once. Jiang Xian is undoubtedly Jiang Qiankun's clone. Ing Sihai remained silent. Fine, he thought. Whatever you say. Chapter 362, The Pursuit. Qin Kun's deductions caught Ing Sihai completely off guard. He had not anticipated finding such a profound genius of self-delusion in this world. Ing Sihai hesitated for a moment, then, against his better judgment, offered a look of heartfelt admiration. Brother Qin's wisdom leaves me utterly ashamed. How did I not see that layer of truth? It is no fault of yours, Qin Kun replied with an arrogant smile. Being trapped in the Xiantian realm inevitably limits one's vision. Furthermore, the spirit race is a rare sight, and those who awaken bloodline's supernatural powers are rarer still. Even the Jiang family, despite their lineage, likely lost the core of their heritage long ago. Only my Qin family possesses a lineage so ancient and flourishing that we remain privy to such secrets. Ing Sihai turned his head away, unable to look Qin Kun in the eye. He was terrified that if he did, he would burst into laughter. Cousin, what should we do now? Qin Lan asked from the side, looking at Qin Kun like a devoted admirer. It is quite simple, Qin Kun said, placing his hands behind his back. He looked as though he had already conquered the world, projecting an air of calm composure. Inside the Taiming Tower, Jiang Xian displayed several supreme treasures. This will undoubtedly trigger the greed of every faction. Once they enter the Earth Emperor's secret realm, they will surely move to kill him and seize those riches. Qin Kun let out a smirk, but they would never suspect that Jiang Xian is merely a clone of Jiang Qiankun. Even if the clone is accidentally slain, the true Jiang Qiankun can recall the treasures instantly, as long as he is nearby. Those ignorant fools are destined to end up with nothing but empty hands. We need only to shadow Jiang Qiankun. When his clone is killed and the backlash hits his main body, we will strike. We can take every single treasure for ourselves with minimal effort. Wow, cousin, you are amazing. You are playing everyone like a fiddle. Qin Lan chimed in with her usual flattery. Qin Kun smiled, clearly enjoying the praise. He took Qin Lan's hand in a show of affection. Vision determines everything, Laner. These frogs at the bottom of the well have shallow insight. Since they cannot grasp the truth, they will naturally be led in circles by Jiang Qiankun. But we are different. We come from the upper world. We have seen much more. His little tricks are transparent to us and unworthy of the stage. Ing Sihai could not listen to another word. He took 2 steps back, distancing himself. If the 2 true gods of the Qin family were not still present, preventing him from breaking ties openly, he would have turned and left immediately. He had no desire to be dragged down to the grave by these idiots. Once we enter the secret realm, I must slip away and stay as far from these fools as possible, he thought to himself. After a moment of reflection, Ing Sihai decided to add more fuel to the fire. Brother Qin should still exercise caution. Jiang Qiankun is surrounded by several geniuses from the Jiang family. Specifically, Jiang Hong is a reincarnation of a god. He is a monster that cannot be underestimated. Oh, a divine reincarnation? Qin Kun narrowed his eyes, a flash of surprise crossing his face. The Xiantian realm did indeed produce some impressive talents. What is his cultivation level? I am not entirely sure, Ing Sihai said calmly. According to the hidden dragon rank, he should be in the spirit transformation realm. However, a month has passed, and he has likely made significant progress, or he wouldn't be coming to the Earth Emperor's secret realm. Spirit transformation? Qin Kun froze, then let out a scoff. A mere spirit transformation cultivator? Even if he is a divine reincarnation, how much could he possibly improve in a single month? At most, he has reached the Earth Profound realm. He is not a threat. However, Qin Kun lowered his gaze and smiled. This only further supports my theory. Most of the Jiang family geniuses chose to follow Jiang Qiankun instead of the young patriarch, Jiang Xuan. Does that not prove everything? A glint of light flashed in Ing Sihai's eyes as he smiled inwardly. He was not surprised at all. This fool had actually fallen for it. Let us go, Qin Kun commanded. Keep a close watch on Jiang Qiankun. We will seize his treasures first, and then we will claim the opportunities and providence of the Earth Emperor's secret realm. The group followed Qin Kun as they moved quickly into the entrance. To the observers from other factions, it appeared as though Qin Kun had been provoked and was now hunting Jiang Qiankun down. Many wondered why he had changed his target. If he wanted to kill someone, shouldn't it be Jiang Xuan? After all, common knowledge suggested that the famous Jiang Qiankun was simply an alias for Jiang Xuan, a shield used to draw fire. Aboard the Great Gon warship, Nangong Mingyue withdrew her gaze and looked at Jiang Xuan with confusion. What exactly is the relationship between you and Jiang Qiankun? Logically, Jiang Xuan had been using the name Jiang Qiankun to draw a lot of hatred. There was no reason for the real Jiang Qiankun to return the favor by drawing Qin Kun's hostility away from Jiang Xuan. Jiang Xuan wore a peculiar smile and shrugged. It is nothing special. He is just a pretender. The impostor had dressed up as Jiang Qiankun to plot against the Jiang family geniuses. Jiang Xuan could not understand the logic behind the move. Did the man really think everyone was that easy to fool? He could only say the man had admirable courage. A pretender? Nangong Mingyue looked puzzled. She did not fully understand the slang, but she sensed the meaning behind it and offered a faint smile. How interesting. At that moment, Jiang Zhao tugged on Nangong Mingyue's hand, swinging it back and forth. Mother, let us go in quickly. There is so much good food inside. Her large eyes were fixed on the secret realm, shining with excitement. Nangong Mingyue shook her head and laughed. She patted the girl's head and warned, once we enter, you must stay safe. Don't worry. Jiang Zhao pumped her small fist and pouted. Anyone who tries to stop me from eating good food will be punched until their head looks like a pig's. Nangong Fengtian and the other geniuses felt their lips twitch. They looked at Jiang Zhao with a mix of confusion, skepticism, and curiosity. They were confused by her childish innocence and skeptical about why the princess and Jiang Xuan would bring a little girl into a place as dangerous as the Earth Emperor's secret realm. Most of all, they were curious. Was she truly the daughter of Jiang Xuan and the princess? The rumors said the two had only just met. Was it possible to move that quickly? The princess and young Master Jiang are truly extraordinary, Nangong Fengtian thought to himself. However, he knew his place. He stepped forward with a flattering smile and said to Jiang Zhao, once we are inside, just tell me what you want to eat. Your brother will help you. If anyone tries to steal it, I will punch them into pigs for you. Everyone turned to look at him with bizarre expressions. The other Great Gon geniuses knew Nangong Fengtian was just adapting to his new reality, but this was a bit much. Using the term brother was pushing it. Beside them, Jiang Chen wanted to laugh. He knew very well that Jiang Zhao had already reached the Dao integration realm. Coupled with her status as a pure-blooded true dragon, this harmless-looking little girl could crush almost anyone on the field in terms of both cultivation and foundation. Jiang Zhao tilted her head and looked at Nangong Fengtian. She blinked, then turned to Jiang Xuan and pointed at the man. Daddy, is he really my brother? What started as a simple mess of titles had now become a complete disaster of family relations. Jiang Xuan was speechless. Nangong Fengtian was mortified. Even Nangong Mingyue felt she was losing her composure. She had barely accepted having a sudden daughter, so where did this sudden son come from? The atmosphere on the warship turned awkward instantly. Nangong Fengtian looked as if he wanted the ground to swallow him whole. Jiang Xuan coughed, realizing it was impossible to explain this to the girl. He decided to change the subject. Let us go. We need to enter the secret realm immediately. The group straightened up and replied in unison. Yes. The warship sped toward the entrance. However, just as they were about to cross the threshold, an unexpected event occurred. Brother Jiang. A frantic cry came from behind them. Jiang Xuan instinctively turned his head, and his face instantly darkened. Lu Fengqi and the other four were currently being hunted. To be precise, they were being chased by Zhao Fuyao and Luo Xinglan. Chapter 363. Can I not enjoy myself a little? Brother Jiang, you have to explain this to them. Lu Fengqi and his four companions cried out in panic toward Jiang Xuan while desperately parrying the divine techniques launched by Zhao Fuyao and Luo Xinglan. After agreeing to help Jiang Xuan, they had split into two groups to intercept the two women. They started with polite persuasion, suggesting they leave of their own accord. However, as top-tier geniuses in their own right, the two women naturally ignored them. With no other choice, a battle ensued. Then came the awkward part. They were losing. Zhao Fuyao and Luo Xinglan lived up to their reputations as the most famous goddesses of the Xiantian realm. Despite being only at the early stages of the heavenly element realm, their combat prowess was staggering. Even the five ancient geniuses found it difficult to hold them back comfortably. Of course, the primary issue was that these women were essentially their sisters-in-law, so they couldn't exactly go all out. While the men held back, the women showed absolutely no mercy. The five geniuses were left in a disheveled state, chased across the landscape until they reached this very spot. Brother Jiang, you really cannot blame us for this. Lu Fengqi looked at Jiang Xuan with a face full of helplessness. Our sisters-in-law are just too strong. We cannot stop them. Jiang Xuan's expression shifted instantly as he felt a cold, piercing gaze strike his side. He roared at the five, "Shut up. Are we even that close?" Lu Fengqi froze, suddenly realizing his blunder. He shifted his gaze slightly and saw a beautiful figure standing right behind Jiang Xuan, staring at him with a frozen smile. His face stiffened, and he gave a dry, hollow laugh. What a coincidence. Sister-in-law is here too. He quickly looked away and turned toward the frost-covered Zhao Fuyao and Luo Xinglan. Straightening his expression, he said solemnly, "Fellow Taoist Zhao, fellow Taoist Luo, we have already laid claim to the Earth Emperor's secret realm. Can you two truly not grant us this convenience?" Secretly, he sent a voice transmission to Jiang Xuan. "Brother Jiang, take your wife and go. We will hold them off for a little longer." "Good brothers." Jiang Xuan was deeply moved. Without a second thought, he snatched the controls of the warship from Nangong Fengtian and pushed the vessel to its maximum speed, charging straight into the Earth Emperor's secret realm. If he did not run now, when would he? Zhao Fuyao and Luo Xinglan naturally saw Jiang Xuan and Nangong Mingyue together, but they did not overthink the situation. They certainly did not suspect that the interference from the five ancient geniuses was related to Jiang Xuan. After all, who could have imagined Jiang Xuan would pull such a stunt? There is no need for further words. Zhao Fuyao looked at Lu Fengqi with a cold sneer. "I warned you before that the waters of Xiantian run deep and told you to keep your heads down. Since you refused to listen, do not blame me for showing no mercy." Luo Xinglan remained silent, but she summoned a phantom of the lunar moon. Her deep blue divine eyes flickered with a chilling light. Lu Fengqi breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Jiang Xuan successfully enter the secret realm, but his scalp went numb when he felt the killing intent of the two women lock onto him again. He felt a wave of resignation. Befriending Jiang Xuan was truly an exhausting endeavor. These women were each more fierce than the last. The surrounding crowd of prodigies paused, watching the scene with intense curiosity. Before even entering the secret realm, these five geniuses of the ancient human race had managed to offend both the Zhao family goddess and the desolate heaven goddess. What on earth had happened? Was a spectacular battle about to break out? Many looked on with anticipation, as a clash between top-tier talents was a rare and educational sight. "What do we do now?" "Fight," Gu Shintong asked in a low voice. "Fight? Are you crazy?" Lu Fengqi rolled his eyes. "These are sisters-in-law. We cannot hurt them." He turned back to the two women and cupped his hands with a smile. "It is all a misunderstanding. A total misunderstanding." At the same time, he whispered to his four companions, "Let us go." Ming Lishan's expression darkened. He lowered his voice, sounding displeased. "Fellow Taoist Luo, sometimes leaving yourself an opening is simply providing yourself with a way out in the future." Luo Xinglan's gaze turned icy at those words. She looked at him with disdain and let out a short laugh. "A way out? You think you are worthy of providing that?" With that, she stepped into the secret realm. Ming Lishan's face was now completely overcast. Anger flickered in his eyes, and sword chi began to pulse around his body. He looked positively sinister. Yang Kong, standing beside him, could no longer watch this. He whispered a piece of advice. "There are plenty of women in the world. Do not let this get to you. Our focus right now is the secret realm. We should prioritize the competition of this era. Once you reach the peak of power, why worry about finding a woman? Get lost." Ming Litian turned his head sharply and glared at Yang Kong. "How I choose to act is not for you to judge. I am the pure Yang sword son. I was taught by a sword immortal and sealed myself through multiple eras for this moment. I have emerged with a pure Yang holy artifact and have my master backing me. In this world, who among the younger generation can compare to me? Can I not enjoy myself a little?" Yang Kong froze, cursing the man as an idiot in his mind. He wasn't just cursing Ming Litian, but also the current master of the pure Yang sword palace. He had no idea what the master was thinking, giving a sacred artifact to Ming Litian. The goal was noble, to help him sweep away his peers and seize the opportunities in the secret realm, but the man was a fool. He had been sealed for so long his brain had clearly rotted. The secret realm was right in front of them, And instead of rushing in to grab the initiative, he was standing here obsessed with women. Damn it. After being sealed for so many years, can you even still use that thing between your legs? Chapter 364, Misfortune and Fortune. The Earth Emperor's secret realm served as the ruins of the Earth Emperor's palace. It was a world of its own, vast and immeasurable, filled with unimaginable wonders. While it appeared to be a dimensional pocket containing all things, everything within it was forged from bronze. The smooth ground, the thickets of trees, the rocks, the rolling mountain ranges, and even the high, wide canopy of the sky were made of metal. A cold, lethal aura unique to ancient bronze machinery permeated the space. Every genius who entered felt a sudden jolt to their soul, experiencing a profound sense of caution and unease. Those with powerful souls and sharp spiritual senses felt a chilling illusion of being watched by something unseen. It was a heart-stopping sensation, a silent terror that made them feel as if they were walking into a bottomless abyss. Something is wrong. Be extremely careful. The leaders of the various factions warned their followers before cautiously moving forward. Every secret realm held great horrors. The more a place promised heavenly opportunities, the more dangerous it tended to be. To seize such a prize, one had to be willing to snatch food from the tiger's mouth. As battle-hardened prodigies, they understood this well. The more eerie and mysterious the realm appeared, the more excited they became, convinced that staggering treasures must be hidden within. Perhaps, they thought, the true opportunity of this great era was right here. Upon entering, the groups found themselves on a vast metallic plain. Everything in sight was cast in bronze. Aside from the cold, sharp atmosphere, there was no sign of life or energy. What made them even more uneasy was the scale. At least tens of thousands of cultivators had entered the realm, yet on this 10,000-mile bronze plain, not a single other soul could be seen. Jiang Xuan's group arrived by warship. After entering, they stowed the vessel and descended to the ground. This is strange, Jiang Xuan muttered, scanning the plain with a frown. Nangong, Fengtian, and the others instinctively drew their weapons, standing on high alert. Jiang Chun summoned his ancient stone portal, hoisting it onto his shoulder. A dominant blade intent radiated from his body, interweaving with the ancient, vast aura of the portal. This energy spread out like a slow-moving undercurrent, forming a powerful domain. Since entering the heavenly element realm, Jiang Chun had delved deeper into the blade ancestors' inheritance. His mastery of the blade had reached perfection, leaving him only a single step away from a true blade domain. Nangong, Fengtian, and the others looked at him sideways, their expressions odd. They hoped he wasn't going to tell them that the massive stone door was actually his sword. It is indeed a bit strange, Nangong Mingyue said, looking at Jiang Xuan with a cold, artificial smile. You ran quite fast. Were you worried about the treasures being stolen, or were you afraid I would have a face-to-face encounter with those two? Jiang Xuan's expression stiffened. He let out a dry, hollow laugh. Of course I was worried about the treasures. He then feigned ignorance. Those two. Which two? I don't know who you mean. Huh. Nangong Mingyue sneered. We will drop this for now. Once the secret realm is over, I will settle the score with you. If you say so, Jiang Xuan replied helplessly. Zhang Zhao looked back and forth between the two. Her large eyes blinked as she sensed she needed to save her father from the fire. She quickly grabbed Nangong Mingyue's hand and spoke up righteously. Mother, you have it all wrong. Those two are not the second mother. Jiang Xuan's heart skipped a beat. Oh, then who is the second mother? Nangong Mingyue asked with an indescribable smile. The second mother is MMPH. Jiang Xuan was faster. He slapped a hand over Jiang Zhao's mouth and forced a smile. Children just babble nonsense. You can't take her seriously. There is something happening. Jiang Xuan's expression suddenly shifted. He looked toward the distance with intense focus. Without giving Nangong Mingyue a chance to ask another question, he scooped up Jiang Zhao and flew toward a bronze mountain range 1,000 feet away. Nangong Mingyue could only swallow her irritation. She turned to the blind and deaf, Nangong Fengtian, and his companions. Stay alert. Watch for any surprises. Only then did the others regain their senses. They let out a sigh of relief and replied, yes. They followed quickly after Jiang Xuan. Creak, creak, creak. The bronze mountains began to move like precision machinery. The heavy sound of grinding gears filled the air as the peaks trembled and restructured themselves. Under their watchful eyes, the mountains slowly formed a massive bronze dragon head. Boom. An ancient, lethal aura rushed toward them like a tidal wave. The bronze dragon slowly opened its cold eyes, which shot out two beams of vast, ancient light. These beams swept across the metallic plane, triggering a surge of mysterious rules. A hazy, celestial millstone began to manifest in the center of the space. The millstone turned slowly. The metallic plane seemed to lose its reality, becoming hazy and illusory. Even the bodies of Jiang Xuan's group began to grow translucent. What is this? The group cried in shock. At that moment, countless illusory versions of the metallic plane appeared across the world. They were layered one on top of the other, with the celestial millstone acting as the central hub. Thousands of prodigies who had previously been invisible suddenly appeared, standing within their own respective layers of the plane. Now that the layers overlapped, the area was suddenly packed with people. Jiang Hong. Jiang Hong was standing right next to Jiang Xian. Jiang Xian instinctively reached out to pat his shoulder, but his hand passed right through the man's body. Jiang Xian was stunned. Dimensional overlapping? This was incredibly advanced. Jiang Chun and Nangong Fengtian were equally shocked. Nearby, Jiang Chun saw a man with wide, angry eyes summoning a divine technique as if to attack him. Jiang Chun instinctively swung his ancient portal, sending out a sharp, dominant blade light. The terrifying force shook the air but passed directly through the other cultivator's body. It struck the bronze ground, leaving only a faint white scratch. Brother Jiang. In another layer of the plane, Lu Fengqi and his 4 friends saw Jiang Xian and called out, but Jiang Xian could not hear them. This bizarre scene played out across every layer. The geniuses were bewildered, unable to comprehend how they could all be in the same place, yet remain separated by space and time, unable to touch or communicate. In the layer containing the imposter Jiang Qiankun and the real Jiang Hong, the imposter narrowed his eyes. He watched the movements and expressions of the surrounding geniuses with a cold smirk. Did these fools really think they could see through the mysteries of the Earth Emperor? This was the 4-symbol sky palace of the secret realm, where danger and opportunity coexisted. However, since he already controlled the key to the realm, he was the one who decided which was which. He began to scout his targets. Qin Kun, Jiang Xian, Yao Wuxian, and even Gu Shintong. There were so many spirit race geniuses with high bloodline concentrations here. He felt a surge of joy. This secret realm was destined to be a massive harvest for him. All of them were prey on his plate. Jiang Hong and the 4th elder exchanged silent, grim looks. They felt a growing sense of unease. This scene was far too strange. They noticed the smile on the imposter's face and realized they had to be on guard. This man didn't just have the key. He knew exactly what was happening, and he might even be the one causing it. Just then, the bronze dragon head lowered itself. Its cold gaze swept across the multitude as it spoke in an ancient, heavy voice. Heaven is fair. Every living being must experience misfortune and fortune. Today is no different. As the voice echoed, 2 ink-colored lines appeared on the bronze sky, crossing each other to divide the heavens into 4 distinct quadrants. Cold bronze scripts appeared in each section: misfortune, luck, calamity, and blessing. Each word radiated its own light. Misfortune glowed with a blood-red light, pulsing with the intent to kill. Luck was a deep earthy yellow, heavy and stable. Calamity was a profound, soul-shaking black. Blessing shone with a dazzling gold light, as if it contained endless auspicious omens. Chapter 365, Countless Opportunities. You will be randomly assigned to different spaces. Good luck to you all. The bronze dragon closed its eyes. The 4 distinct spatial domains descended like the collapsing heavens, randomly pulling the various dimensional planes into their depths. Jiang Xian scooped up Jiang Zhao and flashed back to the side of Nangong Mingyue. At that moment, a golden light representing blessing fell upon them. The plane where they stood instantly shattered and dissolved, replaced by a vast and boundless hidden realm. The horizon was unreachable, the ground did not exist, and the sky was a hazy, ethereal mist. Gigantic statues, standing hundreds of feet apart, towered between the void and the heavens, stretching all the way to the edge of sight. Every statue stood with a bowed head and lowered eyes, radiating an indescribable aura of holiness and grandeur. Information regarding the Grotto of Blessing quietly flowed into everyone's minds. This was a land of auspicious omens, free from danger or disaster, containing only opportunities and heritages. The ancient gods loved all people equally. Those who gained the approval of a statue could receive the inheritance of an ancient powerhouse or a divine weapon. The limit was 7 days. Once someone gained approval from any statue, they could choose to leave the Grotto of Blessing. Alternatively, they could remain for the full duration to seek further heritages and gifts. Jiang Xian and his companions were stunned. Was their luck truly this good? Oh, look at all the good food. Jiang Zhao stared at the towering statues, her eyes sparkling with greed. It is an honor to share in your abundant luck, young master. I am enjoying this blessing thanks to you, Jiang Chen said, trying his hand at flattery. However, he was clearly unpracticed, and his words came out sounding a bit stiff. Nangong Fengtian bowed to Nangong Mingyue and added with a wide smile. Her Highness was born with unparalleled providence. Even in a place like the Earth Emperor's secret realm, her fortune is so great that the very rules of the realm must open a convenient door for her. I am truly envious. You are the lucky star of Great Gone. I can already see the moment when our dynasty reaches the peak of the Xiantian realm under your leadership. After finishing his speech, Nangong Fengtian shot a provocative glance at Jiang Chun. Do you even know how to suck up? Watch and learn. Jiang Chun pursed his lips and silently memorized the lines. The other geniuses from Great Gone looked on with strange expressions. Was this really something worth competing over? Jiang Xian, however, was not paying attention to their banter. He frowned as he studied the statues. He felt that this grotto of blessing was off somehow, an uncomfortable sensation he couldn't quite name. Yet, his passive survival instincts had not triggered. For the moment, it didn't seem to be a trap. How strange, Jiang Xuan muttered to himself. Suddenly, the statue directly in front of them began to tremble violently. A layer of stone skin peeled away, revealing a flow of gilded, flaming divine light. A scorching, holy aura rolled out, manifesting endless fire Dao inscriptions. It felt as if an ancient god of fire was awakening, breaking through the seal of time. The area for 10,000 feet around them was instantly covered in fire runes, transforming the space into a world of flame. The statue slowly lowered its gaze. The flames froze, and time itself seemed to stand still. The statue opened its brilliant flaming eyes and looked at Nangong Mingyue. After a brief observation, an ancient divine voice echoed. Not bad. I am the fire virtue Taoist. I have left a holy technique of the fire path here. Are you willing to accept my inheritance? Nangong Mingyue thought for a moment before bowing politely. I asked the senior to grant me the law. Jiang Xuan started to move to stop her. His instinct told him this place was wrong. But seeing that she had already accepted, he swallowed his words. Let's watch and see, he thought. Good, the statue said. Its eyes shot out beams of divine flame that poured into Nangong Mingyue. The transfer of the inheritance began. Gilded divine flames rose around her, and the scorching aura grew increasingly terrifying, like a volcano gathering strength. Jiang Xuan and the others looked on with envy. They had only just entered, yet her highness had already gained the approval of a god. Her talent and luck were truly monstrous. It really is an inheritance. Jiang Xuan was surprised. At that moment, Jiang Zhao wriggled out of Jiang Xuan's arms and lunged at a statue 100 feet away. She went straight for a bite, but the statue was far too large. Her small mouth couldn't grab onto anything. So annoying. Jiang Zhao wrinkled her nose. The food was right in front of her. How could she miss out? She immediately activated the true dragon bloodline within her, revealing her true form. A dragon roar echoed, accompanied by a blinding golden light. A 9-fathom-long golden dragon appeared before the stunned group. A dragon! A dragon! Nangong Fengtian and the others cried out in shock, their eyes nearly popping out of their heads. Heavens, the princess's daughter was actually a dragon? Nangong Fengtian turned pale. He remembered calling himself her brother just a moment ago. To be a dragon's brother. His legs began to shake uncontrollably. Jiang Zhao opened her massive maw and bit down on the statue without hesitation. The statue trembled, and its stone skin fell away. Beneath the brilliant light, the statue's eyes opened. I am the crow. What the hell are you doing? The spirit was bewildered. His statue was at least 100,000 feet tall, yet his head had suddenly ended up inside someone's stomach. Little friend, let's discuss this. Could you let go first? Wait. Stop eating. I have an inheritance for you. No, the statue doesn't have much energy. It's not as good as the inheritance. I'm begging you, can we please stop eating? In a short span of time, the statue's tone changed more than a dozen times until, burp. Jiang Zhao reverted to her human form and patted her stomach, letting out a satisfied belch. Jiang Xuan was speechless. The crowd was silent. The crow statue muttered, where did this brat come from? Is there no justice in the world? Daddy, it was delicious. Jiang Zhao flew back to Jiang Xuan, ignoring the dumbfounded onlookers, and gave him a wide, beaming smile. Jiang Xuan's lip twitched. Didn't he say he had an inheritance for you? Why didn't you want it? Did he? Jiang Zhao tilted her head, trying to remember. Oh, that inheritance was too ordinary. Do not make it too obvious, or he will grow suspicious, the fourth elder transmitted to Jiang Hong. Follow his words for now and see what he intends to do. If danger arises, we will break the seals on our secret techniques and kill him to ensure your safety. The elders had previously sided with the wrong person, having been blinded by that brat Jiang Qiankun. Now, to atone for their mistakes, they had volunteered for this mission. They had practiced secret arts to seal their cultivation and forcibly change their appearance and aura. The price was heavy, severely affecting their foundational paths and making future progress difficult. But they accepted that mistakes required payment. If this mission succeeded in identifying the faction behind this imposter and wiping them out, their errors would be erased. At the very least, it would not hinder the future of their direct relatives. They had come prepared to die. If things went wrong, they would unseal their power, risk being crushed by the secret realm's restrictions, and kill the fake Jiang Qiankun to protect Jiang Hong. Jiang Hong bit his lip and nodded slightly. He pulled at the sleeve of the girl beside him, transmitting a warning. Be careful. If anything happens, stay close to me. I will do my best to protect you. The girl looked at the serious Jiang Hong with a mischievous glint in her eyes. Jiang Hong then stepped forward and walked toward a statue. Jiang Qiankun lowered his gaze, his eyes shining with excitement. He had noticed the small movements between Jiang Hong and the others. He had long sensed that something was off. Although he did not know exactly what the Jiang family prodigies were planning, it was clear they were wary of him. It made sense. That fool Jiang Qiankun had led a large group of talents out of the family last time. and they were likely all dead by now. Jiang Hong must suspect something, but he did not care. As long as these Jiang family talents were here, it was enough. No matter how much they guarded against him, as long as they had not discovered he was a fake, they would follow his lead and fall into his trap. He would refine them into pure spirit race essence blood. Furthermore, the heritages and treasures within these statues were real. No matter how vigilant they would find nothing suspicious. Once they accepted the heritages, the altered rules of the secret realm would plant a special Dao brand on them, placing them under his control. Once he had branded all the spirit race geniuses, he would refine them all at once to merge perfectly with the Yin Yang Saint Lord, pushing the Yin Yang Great Dao to completion and attaining enlightenment. Jiang Hong reached the statue. Jiang Qiankun felt a surge of excitement. Jiang Hong was a divine reincarnation born with a divine bone. His bloodline concentration had to be extraordinary, perhaps worth two of someone like Jiang Mingyue. But what happened next left Jiang Qiankun stunned. The statue in front of Jiang Hong did not react at all. What is happening? Jiang Qiankun was baffled. He had altered the rules so that any spirit race member with a bloodline concentration of 60 or higher would trigger the statues automatically, granting a heritage and planting a Dao brand. The higher the bloodline concentration, the more statues would awaken. High bloodline concentrations could potentially dissolve a brand, so he needed to plant multiple brands on the strongest talents just in case. Why had Jiang Hong not triggered the rules? Was he not a genius of the Jiang family? Jiang Hong was also puzzled. He possessed a divine bone, yet he could not gain the statue's recognition? It made no sense. After a moment, he gave a formal Taoist salute. The statue finally trembled. The stone skin peeled away, bursting with brilliant divine light. Here it comes. Jiang Qiankun was thrilled. Although he controlled the realm and the rules, this was the first time he was putting the plan into action. He needed to see it succeed. The statue looked down at Jiang Hong, studied him for a moment, and shot out a beam of light. It was a top-grade Dao medicine. Jiang Hong collected the medicine and flew back. He exchanged looks with the fourth elder. They were all confused. Was there truly no danger? Was Jiang Qiankun actually seeking opportunities for them? Jiang Qiankun was equally confused. He stared at the medicine in Jiang Hong's hand and muttered, "Why is it a Dao medicine?" Whether it was a heritage or a divine weapon, the recipient had to open their mind or soul to accept it, allowing the Dao brand to be planted seamlessly. But a Dao medicine was a physical object. No matter how precious, it could not carry the brand. This makes no sense. Jiang Qiankun could not understand it. He had changed the rules so that any spirit race member meeting the bloodline requirement would receive a heritage. Wait, realization struck. Jiang Qiankun looked at Jiang Hong and asked urgently, "Brother Jiang, may I ask what your bloodline concentration is?" At those words, Jiang Hong and the others understood. This fake Jiang Qiankun was targeting their bloodline. Jiang Hong answered truthfully, 58. 58. Jiang Qiankun was choked with disbelief. He had calculated everything but never expected that Jiang Hong, a genius with a divine bone, would have such thin Jiang family blood. He had set the threshold at 60 because bloodlines below that point lacked significant divine properties and were not worth his time. In other words, Jiang Hong gaining the Dao medicine was purely due to his own monstrous talent. But that talent was not the kind Jiang Qiankun wanted. Chapter 367. What the hell are you screaming about? Go and try, Jiang Qiankun said to the fourth elder, his voice thick with frustration. Because the fourth elder was using a concealment technique, he appeared to be nothing more than an ordinary talent. Jiang Qiankun did not bother with the politeness he had shown Jiang Hong and gave the command with careless indifference. The fourth elder did not argue. He simply walked toward another statue. By now, the group had a rough idea of this fake Jiang Qiankun's goal, but since they had not yet identified the power players behind him, it was not yet time to strike. The fourth elder stood before the statue, and the process went smoothly. Just as Jiang Qiankun had demonstrated, the altered rules of the Earth Emperor secret realm detected the spirit race bloodline. The statue awakened on its own, its stone skin peeling away to reveal a brilliant radiance and a grand vision. Then, the statue lowered an inheritance. The inheritance was a misty substance radiating a sacred, heavy, and supreme aura. It was a heavenly god inheritance. The fourth elder was stunned. Was it really this easy? He sensed no immediate danger. Was this imposter actually handing out genuine benefits? Jiang Qiankun was also surprised that a heavenly god inheritance had appeared. Based on the rules he had set, this cultivator's bloodline concentration must be at least 70. Usually, the statues randomly bestowed heavenly god, god monarch, or saint-level heritages. To help him categorize the potential of these spirit race talents, he had adjusted the system so that the quality of the inheritance scaled with the purity of the user's bloodline. This was unexpected. The original Jiang Qiankun had claimed there were very few disciples in this generation with a bloodline concentration of 70 or higher. Had he really just happened to stumble upon one? It felt slightly strange, but then he remembered the Grand Elder mentioning that the Jiang family had sent out their hidden elites to support this mission. That made sense. Stupid Jiang family, he thought with a cold sneer. They probably still think I am their Jiang Qiankun, working to secure opportunities for them. His gaze toward the other talents grew more predatory. If all of them had bloodlines over 70, his fusion with the Yin Yang Saint Lord would go much smoother. But then, an unexpected interruption shattered the moment. A heavenly god inheritance. A tiny little Jiang family thinks they are worthy of touching such a gift? Qin Kun's cold laugh rang out. With a burst of speed that tore through space, he lunged forward and easily snatched the inheritance meant for the fourth elder. It was suspiciously easy. The fourth elder did not resist at all. In fact, he practically handed it over. Since the inheritance likely contained a massive trap, the elder had been hesitating on whether to accept it. Having a fool jump in to take the risk for him was a welcome turn of events. In Qin Kun's eyes, the lack of resistance was a sign of weakness. His estimation of the Jiang family dropped even further. If they brought such pathetic talents to the secret realm, the family was clearly a hollow shell. Holding the inheritance, Qin Kun looked at Jiang Qiankun and sneered. You were quite hard to find. He had been tracking Jiang Qiankun since they entered, locking onto his position immediately. Originally, he planned to wait for the clone to be destroyed before striking the main body, but the current environment made waiting risky. He didn't know which space Jiang Xuan had entered or if someone else would kill him first. If things didn't go as planned and Jiang Qiankun walked away safely, it would be a massive loss. He decided to change tactics and eliminate him now. Jiang Qiankun looked at Qin Kun with a dark expression. Behind Qin Kun, Ing Sihai and the other Qin family talents were arriving. After a moment of hesitation, Jiang Qiankun made a decision. Withdraw. He ordered Jiang Hong and the others, turning to flee. He didn't want a direct confrontation yet. While he could easily handle Qin Kun, doing so would reveal that his strength far exceeded the real Jiang Qiankun's records. That would make Jiang Hong suspicious and ruin his plans. Besides, Qin Kun was also his prey, another spirit race genius. Whether the inheritance was with a Jiang family member or Qin Kun made little difference. As long as he successfully planted the Dao brand, his goal would be met. Jiang Hong and the others followed, puzzled but not questioning the move. Qin Kun and Ing Sihai stood frozen for a moment. They had expected a fight, or at least some parting words. For someone so arrogant outside, Jiang Qiankun was running like a scared rabbit the moment they met face to face. It was ridiculous. Running? You think you can escape? Qin Kun laughed and waved his hand. After them. Today, Jiang Qiankun stays here forever. The 8 Qin family talents, including Qin Lan, shouted their agreement and gave chase. Qin Kun seemed to be intentionally taunting them. He didn't use any lethal moves, choosing instead to shadow them closely. Jiang Qiankun, the grotto of blessing is vast, but you cannot escape death. Just give up and die quietly to save yourself the torture. Jiang Qiankun ignored him. While Qin Kun was a target, he still wanted to secure the Jiang family talents first. He and the Yin Yang Saint Lord had planned this for too long to give up now. As he fled, he secretly activated the rules of the realm, causing every statue they passed to awaken and offer heritages to the Jiang family members. But every time he urged them to accept, Qin Kun would lunge forward and steal the prize. The fourth elder and his companions, of course, were happy to let him. The chase continued. Statues awakened, heritages dropped, and Qin Kun snatched them up. Within 15 minutes, Qin Kun had seized over 10 powerful heritages. Each time he took one, he mocked them. Jiang Qiankun, between the two of us, who is the predator and who is the prey? Jiang Qiankun remained silent and kept running. Jiang Hong and the others were speechless. What kind of deep scheme was this man running that he could endure such humiliation? A moment later, another inheritance was snatched from the fourth elder's reach. The elder was starting to get genuinely angry. Even if the heritages were traps, he couldn't be certain, and they were, in fact, heavenly god-level gifts. Watching 10 of them disappear was painful. He looked back at the pursuing Qin family and spoke to Jiang Qiankun. We cannot keep going like this. Better to just fight it out. His voice was dark with killing intent. He was annoyed by the loss of the treasures, but he also genuinely wanted to kill Qin Kun. He had heard about the dinner in the Great Gone. Jiang Qiankun had figured that even if Qin Kun stole them, he could just plant the Dao brands in him instead. But Qin Kun was just carrying them around in his hands to show them off, with no intention of refining them. What are you stealing them for if you aren't going to use them? Jiang Qiankun wanted to scream. All his hard work was being ruined by this one person. His blood boiled with a murderous urge to end Qin Kun right then and there. Jiang Hong and the others were stunned. Was he really this selfless? Going alone to block the enemy while they took the treasures? Now they were absolutely certain. There was a massive trap in those heritages. Meanwhile, Jiang Qiankun had already charged toward Qin Kun, a string of curses flying from his mouth. Screaming, screaming, screaming. What the hell are you screaming about? Chapter 368. You are my prey. Jiang Qiankun unleashed his divine technique. Eerie light surged, erupting with an endless, murderous aura. The sharpness of his power was enough to make the heart stop. With a simple reach of his hand, the laws of heaven and earth shifted. They manifested into a colossal, towering arm that slammed down toward Qin Kun with crushing force. The world seemed to freeze. Space itself locked tight around Qin Kun. The nearby Qin family prodigies grew pale. They were stunned to realize that Jiang Qiankun was far stronger than they had imagined. Even if he had not yet reached the Dao integration realm, he appeared invincible within the heavenly element stage. Ing Sihai frowned. Feeling the sheer pressure of the attack, he knew he would be unable to withstand it in a head-on clash. How could Jiang Qiankun possess such power? Was he not supposed to be Jiang Xian's puppet? A mere shield forced into the open? From what he had seen at the Taiming Tower, Jiang Xian had only recently entered the heavenly element realm. His strength should have been inferior to the man standing before them. He began to wonder if Qin Kun's theories were actually correct. A bit of skill, I see, Qin Kun sneered. A vast, mysterious aura rose around him. He thrust his right fist forward, channeling the rules of the great Dao. He summoned the weight of the world to manifest a divine mountain that rose to meet the giant palm. Energy ripples exploded outward, sending tremors through the void. Neither side gained the upper hand. Qin Kun frowned, displeased. He was certain his opponent was only at the heavenly element realm. How could a single strike result in a stalemate? You hide your strength well, Qin Kun muttered, narrowing his eyes. A cold light flickered in his gaze as he convinced himself of his theory. This man must be Jiang Xian's primary body. Once he is dead, the human tablet and all his treasures will be mine. A magnificent Taoist chant echoed like the whispers of a dying god. It altered the very atmosphere. The world grew heavy and stifling, as if the air itself had become a physical weight before a natural disaster. The laws of the world became sluggish and impossible to command. Qin Kun's form became a blur, leaving a trail of afterimages as he tore through the void toward Jiang Qiankun. Brilliant light erupted as profound rules flowed around him. Qin Kun looked like a deity descending upon the mortal world. Every movement aligned with the deepest truths of the Tao, triggering a terrifying slaughter. As expected of a spirit-race genius, Jiang Qiankun thought. His excitement grew. The bloodline concentration in Qin Kun's body was clearly immense. Refining him would drastically accelerate his plans and finalize his fusion with the Yin Yang Saint Lord. Fine, Jiang Qiankun mused. Since you insist on interfering, you can go to the grave before the Jiang family. He charged forward to meet Qin Kun. To keep Jiang Hong and the others deceived, he kept his power strictly within the limits of the heavenly element realm. However, in his past life, he had been a heavenly god. Even fighting with limited cultivation, his techniques were horrifyingly efficient. He secretly tapped into the Yin Great Dao. Taoist inscriptions manifested like pitch-black dragon scales, covering his right arm and granting him a sinister, otherworldly strength. He reached out and closed his fist. Space collapsed inward for 1,000 feet around Qin Kun, as if gripped by an invisible, gargantuan hand. A sudden sense of mortal peril washed over Qin Kun. His soul shuddered. He could not believe a heavenly element cultivator could exert such pressure. There was no time for questions. He had to react immediately or be crushed into dust. Gritting his teeth, he pushed his bloodline to its absolute limit. A blinding, blood-red light erupted from his body, staining the entire world crimson. Within that red mist, a thunderous Taoist chant echoed like a giant bell, shaking the laws of the universe. Thick, surging essence blood rose behind Qin Kun, sketching out a ghostly, blood-red figure. Much like the surrounding statues, this figure towered between heaven and earth, looking down upon the firmament as if the entire universe were beneath its feet. This was the bloodline manifestation of the Qin family ancestor. Break! Qin Kun roared. He commanded the ancestral image to sweep its hand across the void. The strike annihilated all local laws, shattering Jiang Qiankun's technique into nothingness. Run! Qin Kun shouted to his companions the moment he broke free. He realized he had severely underestimated Jiang Qiankun's power. The man was far beyond him, and his cultivation level was clearly a deceptive facade. They had to escape, or they would surely die here. Qin Lan and the others were shocked. They never expected their idol to be pushed so far that he had to summon the ancestral manifestation. But now was not the time for questions. If Qin Kun was not a match for this man, they certainly stood no chance. They fled as fast as they could, remembering how they had just been toyed with Jiang Qiankun like cats with a mouse. Jiang Hong and his group were equally stunned. They knew this Jiang Qiankun was a fraud, and that his power likely surpassed Qin Kun's, but seeing the total suppression with their own eyes was still jarring. They had unconsciously assumed that because he was a fake, he would be weak. Jiang Qiankun stood in the void, watching the Qin family flee. He chose not to chase. He had already revealed more power than the real Jiang Qiankun should possess. Killing Qin Kun now would only make Jiang Hong more suspicious and ruin the long-term plan. Furthermore, there were many other prodigies in the Grotto of Blessing. A prolonged chase would draw too much attention. He needed to get the Jiang family to accept the heritages and the Dao brands first. Then, he could hunt the Qin family at his leisure. Suddenly, a change occurred. Every statue in the Grotto of Blessing began to shake violently. The stone skins fell away, releasing a blinding divine glow. Brilliant light from the great Dao filled the sky. Jiang Qiankun froze, staring in disbelief. Every single statue had been awakened. Was it because of Qin Kun's bloodline? He wondered. What kind of concentration could trigger every statue at once? Was it 90%? 95? Or was it a pure bloodline? Jiang Qiankun began to tremble with excitement. His eyes turned red with greed as he looked in the direction Qin Kun had fled. A bloodline that powerful would be worth 10,000 ordinary ones. Qin Kun alone would be enough to complete his fusion. Why bother with the Jiang family at all? With Qin Kun, he could have finished the fusion and achieved the great Dao long ago. He immediately changed his strategy. He abandoned his plans for Jiang Hong and the others and focused his gaze on the horizon. A cold, sharp smile spread across his face. "You really are my prey," he whispered. Chapter 369, Passive Skills. The world suddenly trembled. Jiang Qiankun erupted with an unprecedented, terrifying might and charged forward, hunting down Qin Kun. Sensing the pursuit, Qin Kun and his followers glanced back, their faces instantly turning pale with horror. What the hell? Jiang Qiankun's aura is even more terrifying than before? He was hiding his true power earlier? Run! Run now! Qin Kun roared in panic. The Qin family geniuses immediately activated their life-saving trump cards, fleeing in a desperate frenzy. Ing Sahai, however, had a sharp change of heart. Making a split-second decision, he came to a dead stop. Looking at the oncoming Jiang Qiankun, he said sincerely, "Fellow deist Jiang, I am not actually that close with them." "Ing Sahai?" Qin Kun bellowed in rage. "You have gone too far." But Jiang Qiankun was already closing in fast. Qin Kun didn't dare linger. He suppressed his fury and burned through his survival items to accelerate his escape. Jiang Qiankun ignored Ing Sihai completely. Currently, his eyes were only on Qin Kun. He sped past Ing Sihai without slowing down, focused entirely on the kill. However, the restrictions of the Earth Emperor's secret realm affected Jiang Qiankun as well, preventing him from unleashing his full strength. Furthermore, as a genius from that other world, Qin Kun possessed numerous defensive artifacts. For a time, Jiang Qiankun was unable to catch him. Damn it! The secret realm restricts me to the Dao integration realm. This is a total waste of time. Jiang Qiankun cursed inwardly, though his speed never faltered. Damn it! What is going on with this world? Qin Kun thought bitterly. How can a genius from the Xiantian realm be this powerful? Back at the starting point, Jiang Hong and the others stared at each other in bewilderment. What was this? Why did the fake Jiang Qiankun suddenly lose his cool and chase after Qin Kun? "Hey, little Hong, the things happening around you are always so interesting," Fei Xin said, patting Jiang Hong's shoulder with a laugh. Jiang Hong and the fourth elder exchanged a bitter smile. They had been fishing for so long, but now that Jiang Qiankun had run off, how were they supposed to keep the bait in the water? Meanwhile, on Jiang Xian's side, every statue in the grotto had awakened because of his salute. Jiang Chun, Nangong Fengtian, and the others stared with wide eyes and open mouths. It was unbelievable. Had every statue in the entire grotto recognized young Master Jiang? This is insane. Nangong Fengtian gasped. Her Highness's monstrous talent only gained recognition from one statue for a saint-level technique. Yet young Master Jiang has gained recognition from them all. Just how terrifying is his talent? After a long moment of shock, Nangong Fengtian whispered a thought that made his own soul tremble. Is he a young emperor? Dozens of nearby statues manifested first, their towering figures staring down at Jiang Xian. Their brilliant divine eyes flickered with shock. He possessed a saint physique, high concentration king's blood, mastery over multiple great Daos, the status of a young king, and more. "I am the celestial spirit god. I have a god monarch technique I wish to bestow upon you. Are you willing?" A statue shrouded in misty divine light asked eagerly, leaning toward Jiang Xian. "Bullshit, celestial spirit god." Another statue barked. Its voice was gruff and its temper short. "You have the nerve to offer a mere god monarch technique? Young man, I am the life-severing sword immortal. I created a quasi-saint level sword art. I wish to pass it to you. I believe that in your hands, this art will reach its true glory. Get lost. A quasi-saint sword art? You should be ashamed. I have a saint-level heritage here that is perfect for you." The dozens of statues began to argue over who would give Jiang Xian their inheritance. They shouted and bickered, nearly coming to blows. Nangong Fengtian and the others were dumbstruck. Most of them couldn't get a single statue to look at them. Yet here was Jiang Xian. "You really can't compare people. It will only drive you crazy." Nangong Fengtian sighed with envy. Jiang Chun, having seen such things many times before, acted as if it were perfectly normal. He smiled at Nangong Fengtian and said, "You make such a fuss over nothing. That is my young master. This is standard for him. Why the big surprise?" His tone was dripping with pride, as if the glory were his own. Nangong Fengtian looked at Jiang Chun, whose smugness was written all over his face, and felt speechless. This guy really knew how to flex by proxy. Nearby, Jiang Zhao watched the bickering statues while sucking her thumb. Her large eyes flashed. and she didn't even notice the drool nearly hitting the ground. Food. It's all food. But wait, these are daddy's heritages. I can't eat them. Sigh. Why is life so full of troubles? Jiang Zhao mimicked the gestures her grandpa Jiang Qiankun used to make, tucking her hands behind her back and sighing with a furrowed brow. The life sprite was at a loss. Sometimes, it was hard to understand the young mistress. Little mistress, actually, I think you might have a chance, the sprite said hesitantly. Jiang Zhao stopped her pacing, her eyes lighting up. Tell me, is there a way to make it work? The life sprite extended a claw and pointed. Look, little mistress. The statues were still arguing, some even engaging in physical scuffles. Suddenly, the sky went dark. Stop fighting. The life-severing sword immortal suddenly shouted, stopping the others. He pointed at the sky with a trembling finger. Dragon. There is a damn dragon. The statues looked up and froze in shock. What the hell? That is a massive dragon. No, that is a massive dragon mouth. Wait. Holy crap. The statues suddenly realized Jiang Xuan had ditched them, and this dragon was about to swallow them whole. Wait, why are you running? The life-severing sword immortal yelled at the distant Jiang Xuan. Do you really look down on my heritage? This is a quasi-saint sword art. Before he could finish, his vision went black. Damn it. Stop. The sword immortal screamed. Lord Dragon, let's negotiate. You can eat me, but can you at least let me pass on my inheritance first? Jiang Zhao didn't care. If it was trash daddy didn't want, why waste words? Just eat. Jiang Xuan didn't even look back. He kept his distance. What kind of good person's inheritance would trigger his passive survival skill and make his whole body turn cold? Could he really take these suspicious gifts? No. So he chose to retreat. As Jiang Zhao finished off that batch of statues, the cold sensation of the passive skill faded. Jiang Xuan's internal alarm silenced. He paused, stunned. You can actually do it that way? He turned and gave Jiang Zhao a big thumbs up. In other words, I can verify them one by one. If it's a trap, Jiang Zhao eats it. If it's safe, I take it. Jiang Xuan's eyes lit up. This is a massive harvest. I'm even saving money on childcare. He looked into the distance. Every statue in the grotto had awakened. With so many heritages, surely at least a couple of them were genuinely well-intentioned? And if none of them are well-intentioned, that's fine too, Jiang Xuan muttered, moving forward. He was going to test them all. With his passive skill in hand, he could travel the world without a worry. Chapter 370, Eating Frenzy. Jiang Xuan led Jiang Zhao through the grotto, moving steadily from one monument to the next. Every time they approached, the statues sensed Jiang Xuan's terrifying talent and bowed their heads, eager to pass their legacies to him. Young man, I am the Dreamweaver Immortal, and I hold the heritage of a god monarch. The passive skill triggered instantly, sending a bone-chilling cold through Jiang Xuan's body. It was a trap. Jiang Xuan did not hesitate. Jiang Zhao eat. You got it. Jiang Zhao opened her massive maw and clamped down on the statue's head. In a matter of moments, she had chewed and swallowed the entire thing. I am the... Jiang Xuan's heart skipped a beat as the warning flared again. Eat. A dragon roar echoed through the void, and another statue vanished into her stomach. Just like that, the entire atmosphere of the expedition shifted. Eat. Another roar. Again. Nangong, Fengtian, and the others stood frozen, their expressions numb. They couldn't begin to understand the logic behind this. Young Master Jiang was rejecting one powerful heritage after another. Even if he didn't want them for himself, why let Jiang Zhao devour them one by one? If he looked down on these gifts, he could at least give them to his followers. They certainly wouldn't complain. Jiang Chun, however, remained perfectly composed. In his eyes, whatever the young king did was absolutely correct. Besides, these legacies were saint level at best. There was no real reason for someone of the young king's caliber to waste time on them. Nangong Fengtian leaned in and put an arm around Jiang Chen's shoulder, whispering, Brother, how close are you with young Master Jiang exactly? Jiang Chen glanced at him with a neutral expression. Put it this way, I have put my life on the line for him. He remembered the trial of the human tablet. If he had been even slightly more arrogant back then, he likely would have died at the young king's hands. In a way, that counted as putting his life on the line. Nangong Fengtian was overjoyed. That sounded like a solid relationship. Brother, could you do me a favor? Just say a word to the young master and ask him to leave one heritage for me. I am not picky. Any of them will do. Jiang Chen looked at him in surprise. You actually want this trash? He wasn't bragging. Having studied the legacy of the Blade Ancestor, he didn't care much for these minor heritages either. He didn't feel any pity watching Jiang Zhao consume the statues. He was simply confused by Nangong Fengshan's reaction. Wasn't this man the third prince of Great Gan? Why was he so hungry for these scraps? Was the imperial family that poor? Nangong Fengtian felt choked by the remark. He gave Jiang Chun a thumbs up in silent frustration and walked away, feeling depressed. By this time, Nangong Mingyue had finished her own refinement. She slowly opened her eyes, a brilliant flicker of divine flame passing through her pupils. Congratulations, Your Highness, on obtaining a saint-level technique. Nangong Fengtian and the others hurried over to offer their praise. Nangong Mingyue stood up and looked toward the distant Jiang Xuan. She was puzzled. Though she had been focused on her inheritance, she had been aware of her surroundings. She didn't understand his actions. Why reject every opportunity after gaining the recognition of every statue? Jiang Xuan noticed she was done and made his way back to her, smiling broadly. How is it, wife? Nangong Mingyue nodded slightly. It is a decent firepath saint technique. It should be useful for now. Jiang Xuan nodded thoughtfully. It seemed his theory was correct. The traps hidden within the statues were likely targeted specifically at him. It didn't matter, though. He hadn't come away empty-handed. At the very least, he wouldn't have to spend a fortune on childcare for a while. Jiang Zhao was still in her dragon form, but she had visibly put on weight. Even though the statues were only energy projections left behind by ancient experts, the power they contained was immense. After all, the original masters had been heavenly gods at the very least. Can you still eat? Jiang Xuan asked with a chuckle. Daddy, you can burp? Rest assured, burp. Jiang Zhao made her vow while punctuated by loud, satisfied burps. Jiang Xuan and Nangong Mingyue were both left speechless. Daddy, you have to believe me. I can really keep eating. Sensing Jiang Xuan's skepticism, Jiang Zhao grew anxious. She immediately opened her mouth and bit down on the statue of the fire virtue Taoist, the very one that had just granted a legacy to Nangong Mingyue. In a few quick bites, the statue was gone. The spirit of the fire virtue Taoist could only wonder what he had done to deserve such a fate. Little Green, help me carry some of this, Jiang Zhao whispered to the life sprite. Store the energy in your space for now. Even as a pure-blooded true dragon in the Dao integration realm, she couldn't digest the energy of so many statues all at once. But giving up on such delicious food was simply out of the question. No problem, little mistress. Leave it to me. The life sprite agreed immediately and began hoarding the energy Jiang Zhao channeled over. Technically, the sprite was still in a weakened state. While this energy wasn't top tier, it was high quality and exactly what it needed to recover. However, the sprite had a bigger picture in mind. Keeping the little mistress happy would yield far greater rewards than a bit of scavenged energy. She can actually keep eating? Jiang Xuan was stunned. He felt a wave of relief. If not for this grotto of blessing, his personal savings would never have survived the cost of raising this child. These heritages may not be the strongest, but they are incredibly rare. Why did you reject all of them? Nangong Mingyue finally voiced her confusion. It is a secret. Jiang Xuan winked at her playfully. He reached out and took her hand, leading her toward another section of unverified statues. As they walked, he laughed. Wife, today I will show you the correct way to open a secret realm. Nangong Mingyue had intended to press him for more details, but the moment he took her hand and called her his wife, her shyness swept away her curiosity. The corners of her mouth curled into a slight smile as she followed him. She tightened her grip on his hand. Yay! Jiang Zhao cheered inwardly. The meal continues. Meanwhile, Jiang Xuan and Nangong Fengtian watched from a distance, unsure of what to do next. Brother, do you think we are being a bit redundant here? Nangong Fengtian asked softly. Jiang Chen thought for a moment before shaking his head with absolute certainty. Keep your distance, but follow the young master. Nangong Fengtian looked at him with utter confusion. Are you crazy? You still want to follow them? Can't you see Her Highness and young Master Jiang are in the middle of a moment? Jiang Chun patted him on the shoulder and sighed like a seasoned veteran. You are still too young. It is normal that you don't understand. The young master and the ninth saintess want their relationship to heat up quickly. For that to happen, they need an audience like us. Nangong Fengtian stood there with his mouth agape. What do you mean? We are part of the process? Chapter 371. Qin Kun? Just a nobody. Jiang Xuan and Nangong Mingyue walked hand in hand through the Grotto of Blessing. They strolled as if taking a leisurely walk, and whenever they approached a statue that bowed to offer a legacy, Jiang Xuan performed a swift verification. He would toss a single word to Jiang Zhao eat. Jiang Zhao would instantly spring into action and devour it completely. This process repeated itself time and again. Eventually, Jiang Xuan didn't even need to speak. With a single gesture, Jiang Zhao knew it was time for another meal. Within just 1 hour, more than 300 statues had ended up in Jiang Zhao's stomach. The energy contained within 300 statues was terrifying. Had the life sprite not been there to act as a buffer and store the energy for her, Jiang Zhao's current physical body likely would have exploded from the sheer volume. Eventually, even Jiang Zhao found herself unable to eat anymore. She shifted back into her human form, patting her round, bulging belly. Walking had become a bit of a struggle. She left the rest of the work to the life sprite while she crawled happily into Jiang Xian's arms, narrowed her eyes, and drifted off to sleep. Thus, Jiang Xian walked on, holding Jiang Zhao in one arm and leading Nangong Mingyue with the other. They looked every bit like a warm, happy family of three. If they weren't in the middle of the Grotto of Blessing, they might have truly drawn envious glances from passers-by. Is that Jiang Xian? A young prodigy from a prominent family noticed him and cried out in shock. The exclamation caused his companions to turn their heads, but Jiang Chun was faster. He struck out instantly, slamming the ancient gate in his hands down without mercy, sending the entire group of 4 or 5 people flying. In such a beautiful moment, Who would dare ruin the atmosphere of the young master's date? They would have to answer to Jiang Chen's door first. 2 more hours passed, and the number of devoured statues reached 1,000. Compared to Jiang Zhao's one-at-a-time approach, the life sprite was significantly faster. His technique was so refined that it was impossible to see how he moved. The statues simply vanished. This meant that Jiang Xian had rejected nearly 1,000 legacies. However, not all the awakening statues offered heritages. Some bestowed Dao medicines, weapons, or divine artifacts. Strangely enough, the passive survival skill did not trigger for Dao medicines or divine objects. But if it were a heritage or a weapon, Jiang Xian would instantly feel that bone-chilling cold. Consequently, though he had been rejecting items throughout the journey, he had still collected more than a dozen Dao medicines. Normally, this wouldn't be enough to raise a child, but things were different now. With a massive reserve of energy stored away, little Jiang Zhao was self-sufficient. She had essentially stored her own formula for the future. Therefore, Jiang Xian felt perfectly justified in pocketing these dozen or so Dao medicines as his own private stash of pocket money. In the past, Jiang Xian never understood why men kept secret stashes of money. But now that he had reached this stage of life, the knowledge seemed to come to him naturally, as if by instinct. As the saying goes, his father had probably worked quite hard all these years too. Because of Jiang Xian's continuous verification process, the Grotto of Blessing began to undergo a noticeable change. Originally, the entire domain was filled with towering statues. Now, it was empty, desolate, and hollow. This realm had no clear distinction between ground and sky. The statues were the only reference points for navigation. Now that the statues were gone, there was only a vast, wide expanse of nothingness. Where are the statues? Along the way, the group encountered many other cultivators, and that question was the one they heard most often. Upon entering the grotto, everyone was told that they could only leave once they gained the recognition of a single statue. But now that the statues were missing, where were they supposed to find recognition? One incident was particularly extreme. Jiang Xian came across some geniuses who were in the middle of receiving a legacy. Because he drew near and made a subconscious gesture, the life sprite snatched the statue away. The poor cultivator was left standing there in a daze. He had been receiving a legacy. How did the statue just vanish? Half a day later, they arrived at the central region of the grotto. The number of prodigies and elites gathered here was noticeably higher, and the auras radiating from the statues were much stronger. Jiang Xian. The various geniuses sensed his presence and turned their gazes toward him, their eyes flickering with wariness and caution. You go ahead with your legacies. I am just here to look around, Jiang Xian said with a smile, holding Jiang Zhao in his left arm and Nangong Mingyue's hand with his right. Naturally, no one believed him, but no one moved against him either. After the incident at Taiming Tower, everyone's assessment of Jiang Xian and Nangong Mingyue's strength had risen a level. Unless absolutely necessary, they did not want a direct confrontation. Right then, a voice rang out. You madman, just how long do you intend to keep chasing me? Qin Kun's angry roar echoed from the other side of the grotto. Everyone turned toward the sound and was met with a shocking sight. Qin Kun, the elite of the Qin family who had descended from that other world, was actually being hunted. And the person chasing him was none other than Jiang Qiankun of the Jiang family. What on earth is happening? I told you, you are my prey, Jiang Qiankun said calmly. He sneered, repeatedly unleashing lethal divine techniques and hurling them toward Qin Kun. Enough. Qin Kun came to a halt and shattered the incoming technique with a wave of his hand. He stared at Jiang Qiankun with fury and killing intent. You keep pushing me. Do you really think I don't have a trump card that can kill you? Jiang Qiankun stopped. He glanced at the bloodstained Qin Lan nearby, and then looked back at Qin Kun with a faint smile. Stop with the nonsense. If you have the ability, show it. Including the others, I have already killed 8 of your Qin family geniuses. Now only the 2 of you are left. I imagine they are quite eager to be reunited with you. The entire crowd was stunned. Jiang Qiankun had killed 7 Qin family members by himself, and was now hunting Qin Kun? If they remembered correctly, those Qin family members were at least in the late stages of the heavenly element realm. Wasn't Jiang Qiankun just a puppet for Jiang Xian? How could he be this fierce? In an instant, many eyes turned toward Jiang Xian. Your double is hunting down Qin Kun. As the young patriarch of the Jiang family, aren't you going to say anything? Jiang Qiankun noticed Jiang Xian, and his eyes narrowed, a flicker of delight passing through them. This truly was a massive harvest. If he settled Qin Kun and Qin Lan first, then killed Jiang Xian and refined them all into spirit race essence blood, what level would he reach? Becoming a saint would no longer be a distant dream. Young patriarch, this Qin Kun is a man of wolfish ambition. He dared to covet the 9th saintess. He deserves to die. Jiang Qiankun immediately turned on his acting skills, speaking to Jiang Xian with righteous indignation. I was so enraged that I took action. I have already slain many of the Qin family's talents, and now only Qin Kun and Qin Lan remain. I hope the young patriarch will help me make sure these 2 stay here forever. Qin Lan's face turned pale. She glared at Jiang Qiankun. You despicable, shameless coward. She then whispered to Qin Kun, cousin, I will cover you. You escape first. Once we are out of the secret realm, we will call for the elders and wipe out the Jiang family." Qin Kun looked at Jiang Qiankun and then at Jiang Xuan. His expression was dark, but he said nothing. Jiang Xuan, however, was amused by Jiang Qiankun's words. "What should I do? Should I play along? Or should I just sit back and watch these dogs bite each other?" He seemed to be hesitating, but his actions spoke for themselves. To the astonishment of the crowd, Jiang Xuan unhurriedly pulled out a bench. He sat down with Nangong Mingyue and then pulled out some melon seeds and started cracking them. "You keep doing what you're doing," Jiang Xuan said to Jiang Qiankun while cracking a seed. "I have faith in your strength. Killing this little nobody should be easy for you. Good luck." Jiang Qiankun was speechless. Qin Kun was speechless. Everyone present was utterly stunned. Chapter 372, Mentor of the Earth Sovereign. The crowd stood frozen, staring at Jiang Xuan as if he were an alien life form. They were utterly blindsided by his behavior. None of them could wrap their heads around how a young patriarch could act this way. Jiang Qiankun was out there risking his life to hunt down the Qin family for him. Yet Jiang Xuan didn't offer a hand or even a word of gratitude. Instead, he just sat there like he was at a theater. Qin Kun let out a sharp, mocking laugh. He didn't understand the dynamics either, but he wasn't going to miss a chance to needle his pursuer. "It seems there is a bit of a rift between you and your original body," he sneered at Jiang Qiankun. In Qin Kun's mind, it was common for clones to develop independent wills. He assumed Jiang Xuan was simply trying to seize total control and suppress his subordinate. Jiang Qiankun ignored the taunt, his eyes fixed on the seed-cracking Jiang Xuan. He was riddled with suspicion. There was no logical reason for Jiang Xuan to stand by and watch. Had his true identity been compromised? It didn't seem possible. Even the elders like Jiang Hong hadn't noticed anything wrong, and this was his first real meeting with Jiang Xuan. There was no way the boy could have seen through him already. Despite his logic, Jiang Qiankun's instincts were screaming. Jiang Xuan's indifference made him deeply uneasy. If he didn't act now, the situation would spiral out of control. He decided he had to force the issue. Deep within his mind, Jiang Qiankun manipulated the hidden rules of the Earth's sovereign secret realm. He moved to trigger the ultimate legacy of the Four Symbols Heavenly Palace. He believed that no matter how cautious Jiang Xuan was, he wouldn't be able to resist a supreme opportunity of this magnitude. Once Jiang Xuan reached out for it, the Dao brand would be successfully planted, and everything would return to his original plan. The air hummed with power. Brilliant beams of light shot upward, illuminating the entire domain as the statues began to shake violently. With a series of thunderous explosions, the statues shattered into dust, transforming into pure energy. Of the 3,000 statues that were supposed to be in the Grotto of Blessing, more than 1,000 were gone. He tried to calm his nerves, telling himself it wouldn't matter much. He drove the fractured divine rune forward. Before the eyes of the stunned crowd, the rune slotted into a hidden groove in the sky, acting like a key turning the lock of a great vault. The grotto began to split apart. The vast sky cracked in two, revealing a deep, infinite darkness. A sacred, auspicious glow poured out like a sunset, flooding the entire domain. A voice, ancient and heavy, echoed in everyone's ears. Fortune and calamity are dictated by fate, yet forged by human hands. From the heart of that darkness, a terrifying figure emerged. It was a monstrosity, a patchwork of various legendary beasts. Its body was the white tiger of the four symbols. Its limbs were dragon claws covered in shimmering scales. It bore the flaming wings of the vermilion bird and the heavy tail of the black tortoise. Most haunting of all were its heads. It had four. The central head was that of a kind, elderly man with a long white beard. To the left hung a Qilin head weeping tears of blood and a gruesome, snarling skull. To the right sat the smiling head of a Pichio. The spectators were horrified. What kind of nightmare was this? The human head scanned the crowd and offered a faint smile. "Greetings, young ones. Allow me to introduce myself. I am the god of wealth. I was the mentor of that boy, the Earth Sovereign." He continued, his voice calm. "Because of certain circumstances, the Earth Sovereign killed me and rebuilt me into this form to guard his palace for him. I know you all came here for his legacy. I can help you. My authority as the god of wealth, the limbs of the four symbols, the fierce will of the Qilin, the skull that embodies disaster, and the Pichio that carries grand fortune. All these parts of me are yours for the taking." He described the different parts of his body, each one a treasure beyond imagination. He smiled warmly. "I can give all of this to you." The crowd stood paralyzed. They looked at this god of wealth with profound suspicion. Even though the treasures he offered were legendary, the sheer wrongness of his existence filled them with a cold dread. The entity didn't seem to care about their fear. He knew that greed eventually overrides terror. "I have only one condition," he said. "Kill the Earth Sovereign for me." Something is wrong, Jiang Qiankun thought, his anxiety spiking. How could this creature have a conscious mind? Everything was supposed to be under his thumb. This monster was the centerpiece of his plan to manipulate the Jiang family, and in all his previous probes, it had been a mindless tool. He was supposed to be the one pulling the strings. If his plan failed or he was exposed, he was going to use this monster to slaughter everyone. But now it was talking. He searched for a reason, and then it hit him. The statues. The 3,000 statues weren't just there to provide legacies. They were there to suppress the consciousness of this monster. With so many of them missing, the seal had weakened enough for the mentor to wake up. Jiang Qiankun fumed silently. Who was the idiot that destroyed all those statues and ruined his trap? The gathered prodigies remained still. Even the promise of such power wasn't enough to make them move towards something so eerie. The god of wealth shook his head and laughed softly. You have come all this way. Are you truly so afraid of death? Very well. If I remain here, you will never have the courage to take what I offer, let alone fulfill my request. So, I will simply leave first. Remember, if you take my power and carry my legacy, you must kill the Earth Sovereign. As he spoke, the human head burst into flames, turning to ash and blowing away in the wind. With the head gone, the creature's body broke apart. The wings, the tiger's frame, the tortoise's tail, and the dragon's claws, along with the Qilin's will and the Pishio's essence, all floated separately in the void. Each piece pulsed with a different, overwhelming power. The eyes of the crowd narrowed as greed finally began to ignite. Their breathing turned shallow and rapid. These were opportunities that could change their lives forever. Any one of these pieces could be the key to reaching the Saint Realm or achieving immortality. Even Qin Kun and Qin Lan looked on with desperate longing. These were treasures that would be nearly impossible to find even in their own world. Even Nangong Mingyue, with all her experience, felt a ripple of excitement in her heart. Jiang Qiankun's face darkened. The situation was a total mess. But then, the voice of the god of wealth whispered directly into his mind. Do not worry. I woke up because of you, and that creates a bond of fate. I will not ruin your plans. These treasures will naturally seek out those with the blood of the Jiang family. Jiang Qiankun froze, then felt a wave of relief wash over him. That changed everything. Of course, if the Jiang family's children insist on refusing my gifts, there is nothing I can do, the voice teased. Thank you, Senior, Jiang Qiankun replied inwardly. A cold smile touched his lips. He wasn't worried at all. Who could possibly turn down power like this? Everything was finally getting back on track. Chapter 373. These opportunities deliver themselves. The geniuses and prodigies from all sides stared with burning eyes at the treasures floating in the air, yet no one dared to move. Everyone understood that whoever struck first would become a target for the entire crowd. But there are always those who do not fear death, or rather, those with absolute confidence. All these opportunities belong to the Qin family. Qin Kun stepped forward, his Dao integration realm pressure rolling out like a tidal wave. Anyone who reaches for them dies. His aura shifted dramatically, as if he had become an entirely different person. Surging bloodline power erupted from within him, accompanied by profound and mysterious rules. It manifested into a towering phantom that radiated an indescribable, supreme pressure, compelling those present to bow in worship. It was the phantom of the Qin family ancestor. Qin Lan followed suit, her own Dao integration pressure expanding as she activated her bloodline to summon an ancestral phantom of her own. Her combat strength surged by nearly 50%. As elites of the immortal Qin family, their arrogance was not just rooted in their cultivation, but in the spirit race bloodline that allowed them to challenge even venerables in battle. This was the source of their defiance. The area fell silent. The gathered cultivators stared at Qin Kun and Qin Lan with gloom and dread. How could their strength be so terrifying? How were they supposed to compete for the treasures now? Nangong Mingyue narrowed her eyes at the pair. After a moment of thought, she spoke to Jiang Xuan. I should be able to hold Qin Kun off for 15 minutes. Do you have the confidence to get past Qin Lan and seize the opportunities? When she finished, she realized Jiang Xuan was still cracking melon seeds, appearing as though he had no interest in the supreme treasures at all. Her lip twitched in confusion. You don't want these? She whispered. Jiang Xuan looked up at her, paused, and then shook his head with a smile. I don't want to put my wife through so much trouble. Must you always be so flippant? Nangong Mingyue rolled her eyes at him. Jiang Xuan chuckled, but stayed firmly in his seat. He truly had no intention of moving. Nangong Mingyue was genuinely stunned now. You really don't want them? Jiang Xuan glanced at the floating treasures. He felt the familiar chill of his passive survival skill wash over him, that inescapable feeling of dread. Based on his experience, he could already visualize exactly how the next few minutes would play out. He looked back at Nangong Mingyue and said solemnly, Wife, would you believe me if I said that even if you don't lift a finger, these treasures will come running to me on their own? Nangong Mingyue stared at him. What nonsense are you talking about? She scolded. But before the words could fully leave her mouth, a hum vibrated through the air. The floating treasures erupted in a chorus of divine light. They shattered the void, traveling through space to appear directly in front of Jiang Xuan. The vermilion bird wings fluttered wildly, the white tiger body crouched low, and the black tortoise tail wagged. The dragon claws clasped together in a respectful salute, while the Qilin head, the skull, and the Pishio struck the ground with their foreheads, prostrating themselves before him. The intent to acknowledge him as their master could not have been clearer. Nangong Mingyue was speechless. Nangong Fengtian and the others were frozen in disbelief. The entire crowd was dumbfounded. Was this even allowed? Qin Kun and Qin Lan stood paralyzed. They had successfully blocked everyone else, only for the treasures to bypass them and offer themselves to Jiang Xuan. It made them look like absolute fools. Jiang Xuan spread his hands toward Nangong Mingyue and gave her a helpless smile. "See, wife, I didn't lie to you. How did you do that?" she asked, her expression complex. "What can I say? Your husband is just naturally lovable," Jiang Xuan teased. Nangong Mingyue laughed, but her expression quickly turned serious. "Stop joking. Refine them quickly. I will cover you." She immediately summoned her fire realm, transforming the surrounding 1,000 feet into a sea of flames. Radiant gold light scorched holes into the very fabric of space. Her gaze turned cold as she scanned the crowd. The opportunities have chosen their master. Do not make a mistake you will regret. The geniuses watched with mixed emotions. Just what kind of person was Jiang Xuan that he could make such treasures submit voluntarily? Still, they were unwilling to give up. Nangong Mingyue, your power alone is not enough to swallow all these treasures. Qin Kun's voice was icy as he walked through the air. The ancestral phantom behind him erupted with a murderous aura that shook the heavens, forming a terrifying domain that caused even Nangong Mingyue's fire realm to tremble. Nangong Mingyue's heart sank. The gap between her and Qin Kun was too wide. Maintaining the fire realm against him was a struggle. "Hurry, I don't know how long I can hold him," she told Jiang Xuan. Jiang Xuan looked at the treasures, then at the woman standing in front of him. He shook his head. "Wife, there's no need. Let's just give these broken treasures to Qin Kun." "What are you saying?" Nangong Mingyue glared at him. Jiang Xuan felt a warmth in his chest. He spoke more seriously now. "I don't want you to get hurt." Her eyes softened at his words. "Don't worry," she said gently. "I have this under control." Jiang Xuan felt helpless. How could he convince her? Should he tell her the truth? The secret was hard to explain, and even harder to prove. Just as he was struggling for words, Jiang Qiankun stepped forward, looking every bit the righteous protector. "Young patriarch, have no fear. With me here, Qin Kun will not touch you," he declared. He then turned to Nangong Mingyue. "Young patriarch's wife, you should step back as well. The young patriarch is worried about your safety. If you are in the line of fire, he will never be able to focus on refining these treasures." Finally, Jiang Qiankun turned his cold gaze toward Qin Kun. "So you're a big shot from the Kunlun domain? Take one more step, and I'll cripple you." Since the treasures had chosen Jiang Xuan, it proved he had the highest bloodline concentration of the Jiang family. He might not match Qin Kun, but he was close enough. Jiang Qiankun's plan was simple. Let Jiang Xuan refine the treasures and take the Dao brand, then kill Qin Kun himself. That would make this trip to the secret realm a perfect harvest. Besides, after acting as Jiang Xuan's loyal follower like this, there was no way the boy would suspect him anymore. "Young patriarch, rest easy," Jiang Qiankun said with total sincerity. "We may have had our differences in the past, but I have seen the light. You are the pillar of our family. As long as I, Jiang Qiankun, draw breath, this nobody Qin Kun will not get within a single step of you." Jiang Xuan looked at Jiang Qiankun with a strange expression. "You really are a good person, aren't you, Jiang Qiankun?" Qin Kun roared, his fury reaching a breaking point. He glared at the man, his voice a hallowed scream of rage. "You are courting death." With a thunderous explosion, Qin Kun charged forward, his ancestral phantom unleashing a devastating slaughter toward Jiang Qiankun. Chapter 374. Take the opportunities, you have earned them. Young patriarch, focus on refining these opportunities without worry. Jiang Qiankun spoke with apparent sincerity before turning to face Qin Kun. Due to the shackles of the Earth Emperor's secret realm, he could only exert the power of the Dao integration realm at most. Anything more risked being crushed by the realm itself. Although he held and manipulated the rules of the secret realm, he still could not alter this fundamental restriction. However, it was enough to deal with Qin Kun. He secretly activated the sinister Yin Great Dao, causing deep, dark light to surge around him. As he unleashed his lethal techniques, the sky seemed to flicker between existence and ruin. The surrounding space collapsed inward like a cold abyss, swallowing all universal laws and elemental energy. Qin Kun's techniques were not exempt. They were overbearingly consumed and annihilated. That technique again. Fury flickered in Qin Kun's eyes. He had been hunted across the realm, and the geniuses of the Qin family had been nearly wiped out. All of it stemmed from this strange, treacherous power that seemed to dissolve every law in the world. It left him utterly passive and without an opening. However, he sneered inwardly. Now that he had activated his bloodline inheritance and summoned the ancestral projection, it did not matter how powerful Jiang Qiankun's techniques were. Death was the only outcome. Qin Kun's gaze turned icy as he further stimulated the projection. Wrapped in supreme energy, he ignored Jiang Qiankun's technique entirely. He crossed through the collapsing void and threw a seemingly casual punch toward Jiang Qiankun. The entire grotto trembled. Hundreds of feet of space shattered like a mirror, spreading shocking cracks through the air. An indescribable pressure, heavy as a divine mountain, crashed down. The surrounding geniuses were terrified by the aftershocks. Feeling the weight on their bodies, they scrambled back in panic, fearing that a single stray spark would kill them. Watching from a distance, their faces were pale and their hearts raced. In this moment, they truly felt the extent of Qin Kun's power. It was not just a gap in cultivation, but an absolute suppression of foundations. This ancestral projection represented a level they could not hope to reach. Even if they entered the Dao integration realm themselves, they would likely be unable to resist it. The projection borrowed the power of an ancestor. As an immortal family established in that other world, the Qin ancestor must have reached the eternal life realm at the very least. One could only imagine what this projection meant to those standing before it. It was a literal strike from a higher dimension. It felt like cheating. Jiang Qiankun faced the projection without a change in expression. He had to admit that the spirit race bloodline possessed an enviable heritage. To summon an ancestor to fight on your behalf at a moment's notice was inherently unfair. An ordinary genius would have been forced to their knees by now. However, in his past life, he had been a heavenly god. This level of pressure meant nothing to him. Jiang Qiankun charged forward to meet the projection, unleashing killing arts with effortless grace. Amidst the eerie light and violent collisions, he moved with calm precision. While he did not instantly destroy the projection, he maintained total suppression over it. He even managed to hold Qin Kun back simultaneously. The onlookers were stunned. Is Jiang Qiankun really this fierce? Suppressing Qin Kun was one thing, but he was actually overpowering the ancestral projection itself. It made no sense. If he was this strong, why was he still acting as a decoy for Jiang Xian? Qin Kun's face was dark as a storm. For the first time, he felt a sense of helplessness. He had summoned the ancestor, yet he was still no match for Jiang Qiankun. Cousin, let me help you, Qinlan shouted as she joined the fray. She unleashed her own killing techniques and summoned her own ancestral projection to follow. On the surface, it was 2 against 1. In reality, it was 4 powerful entities besieging Jiang Qiankun. How shameless. The watching geniuses clicked their tongues. They thought prodigies from that world would be different, but they were all the same when pushed into a corner. Yet, Jiang Qiankun remained unafraid. One opponent or 2, it made little difference to him. The only difficult part was restraining himself. He could not let his strength appear too exaggerated or unlike his current identity. If Jiang Xian grew even more suspicious, he would see through the ruse, and that would be troublesome. Jiang Qiankun secretly manipulated the secret realm's rules to limit the ability of the 2 Qin cousins to draw upon the world's energy. This ensured he did not have to reveal more of his own power to hold them off. The battle fell into a fierce stalemate. During the heat of the fight, Jiang Qiankun found a brief opening and urged loudly, "Young patriarch, you must refine these opportunities quickly. I cannot hold them off forever." Hearing this, the crowd suddenly snapped back to reality. The opportunities had chosen Jiang Xian. He was the main character here. How had they been so distracted by the fight? Had Jiang Xian already finished the refinement? Every eye turned toward Jiang Xian. Then, they all froze. The man had not moved an inch. He was still sitting on his small bench, happily cracking melon seeds. It was exactly the same as before. Well, there was one difference. He now had Nangong Mingyue pulled into his embrace. It was an infuriating sight. "Wife, open your mouth. Let me feed you." Jiang Xian lowered his head and spoke to Nangong Mingyue. Jiang Xuan and Nangong Fengtian winced and quickly looked away. Since Jiang Xian was feeding her the seeds he was cracking, they decided it was best not to look and certainly best not to imagine. Nangong Mingyue's face turned bright red. She felt as though she might die of embarrassment. The spectators were dumbfounded. What on earth was he doing? Great opportunities were laid out right in front of him, and Jiang Qiankun was fighting a desperate battle to protect him, yet he refused to refine a single thing? Instead, he was doing this? Jiang Qiankun saw the scene as well, and his composure nearly shattered. What the hell was going on? Ha! Qin Kun laughed wildly when he saw the display. Jiang Qiankun, it seems your original body has a bit of a rebellious streak. Original body? Jiang Qiankun glanced at Qin Kun as if looking at an idiot. He had no time to explain. He swept his sleeve, sending the Yin Great Dao rolling forward to push back the cousins and their projections. He turned back to Jiang Xian, his face twisted in a look of frustrated disappointment. Young patriarch, these are supreme opportunities. Obtaining even one gives you a chance at eternal life. You absolutely cannot ignore them. The crowd was moved by this. They marveled at Jiang Qiankun's dedication to the Jiang family. As far as they knew, Jiang Qiankun had lost his position to Jiang Xian and had been used as a decoy to draw hostility. Despite all that, he held no grudge. Even with his current immense strength, he remained loyal, fighting with all his heart to buy time for his leader. Where else could one find such a sincere person? If they were in his shoes, they would be happy to see Jiang Xian dead. Helping him? Not a chance. Jiang Qiankun is a true man of honor. Yang Kong of the pure Yang Sword Palace sighed in admiration. After feeding Nangong Mingyue another seed, Jiang Xian looked up at Jiang Qiankun and feigned deep thought. Supreme opportunities? A chance at eternal life? He paused, then smiled. Forget it. I don't want them. You have worked so hard. I will give them all to you. Jiang Qiankun stood frozen. The entire crowd was speechless. Chapter 375. When did I expose myself? Everyone was completely bewildered. Was there truly a fool like this in the world? To refuse so many supreme opportunities, to turn down such immense fortune? It seemed impossible. Is Jiang Xian truly that arrogant, or is he just a complete idiot? Yang Kong asked, his jaw dropping in shock. The nearby geniuses and prodigies turned to look at him, as if he were the simpleton. If you think Jiang Xian is a fool, you two would probably get along great, one muttered. After all, idiots always find something to talk about. They knew this was no joke. As Jiang Qiankun had said, these were divine opportunities. Obtaining just one offered a path to eternal life. Obtaining them all would make reaching the Saint Realm as easy as breathing. They acknowledged that the Longevity Jiang family had deep foundations and immense wealth, but no matter how rich a family was, how could they look down on these ancient legacies? A millionaire might ignore a few dollars of interest, but he would never ignore $100 million in found cash. Nangong Mingyue, still resting in Jiang Xian's arms, knit her brows slightly. Though she had many questions, she chose to trust him. He always had a reason for his actions. Is it quite bold? I have rejected all of these supreme opportunities, Jiang Xian said to her with a smile. Nangong Mingyue smiled back and shook her head. I believe in you. In that moment, a notification from his golden finger system flashed before his eyes. Congratulations on breaking the established plot. By following the original script, there was a 30% chance that the Yin Yang Saint Lord would have successfully planted a Dao brand within you. You would have been controlled and eventually refined into essence blood. By rejecting the treasures of the God of Wealth, you have gained a reward, the Four Symbols Heavenly Palace. This palace was forged by the Earth Sovereign and carries the mighty power of the four divine spirits. It contains four major spaces representing fortune, calamity, luck, and disaster. It was originally intended as a trial ground for human geniuses. Your relationship with Nangong Mingyue has warmed further. Her luck as a child of destiny has blessed you, triggering an extra reward, the hatred of the God of Wealth. By slaying the God of Wealth, you will obtain his divine authority. The hatred of the God of Wealth? Jiang Xian thought. How is that a reward? He felt speechless, but he accepted it. After all, he had essentially packed up and taken the entire Four Symbols Heavenly Palace with him. Do you know anything about this God of Wealth? Jiang Xian asked the life sprite through a mental transmission. I know a little, the life sprite replied hesitantly. Rumor has it that the God of Wealth became blinded by greed. He attempted to sell off the destiny and fortune of the human race. When the Earth's sovereign discovered this, he ordered the man to be flayed and his bones stripped. Whether the tale is true, I cannot say for certain. Selling the human race's destiny? Jiang Xian was stunned. That was an incredible feat, even if it was villainous. Setting aside morality, that God of Wealth was certainly a formidable figure. Because of Jiang Xian's explicit refusal, the various treasures began to tremble as if they were mourning. They seemed heartbroken that such a perfect master refused to take them. After a moment of grief, the legacies flew off to follow the will of the God of Wealth, seeking out other disciples who carried the blood of the Jiang family. He really did it? He truly refused? The crowd was shocked, but they didn't have time to dwell on it. They all lunged forward, desperate to snatch the fleeing opportunities. If Jiang Xian was too stupid to take them, they certainly weren't. Yang Kong was among them. His target was the Qilin will, which represented slaughter. As a sword cultivator, this was the perfect fit for him. Get back. None of you are worthy of the Qilin will. Yang Kong roared. He drew his sword and struck out. The blade erupted with the brilliant light of pure yang, a solar sword energy that tore through the void and shattered all opposing laws. He was the reincarnation of the third-generation pure yang swordmaster. Even if his heavenly element cultivation wasn't the highest among the group, his actual combat power was second to few. The solar sword energy spanned the heavens. Several geniuses turned pale, realizing they couldn't match him, and immediately pivoted to chase other treasures. The Qilin will is mine. Yang Kong cheered, reaching out to grab it. The Qilin head, still weeping blood, suddenly snapped its eyes open. A terrifying, tangible killing intent surged out. Was it some common street good that any random dog could touch? It seemed to glare at him, telling him to look in a mirror before daring to reach out. A muffled bang followed. Yang Kong was overwhelmed by the killing intent. He coughed up a mouthful of blood and was sent flying backward instantly. The Qilin head then tore through space and sped away, searching for a genius with the Jiang family bloodline. The other treasures acted similarly. They unleashed their immense power, wounding any outsider who tried to seize them, and then calmly departed to find their rightful masters. The crowd stood in stunned silence. The physical injuries hurt, but the blow to their pride was worse. They were used to people being treated differently based on status, but this was the first time they had seen treasures act so snobbish. Truly, how were they any worse than Jiang Xian? As the treasures flew out, they naturally found Jiang Hong and the others. Without a word, they initiated the soul-binding process. Jiang Hong and his companions were confused, but they saw no reason to refuse, so they began the refinement. Jiang Hong obtained the slaughter-focused Qilin will, while the fourth elder and others received the white tiger body and other gifts. Interestingly, the Pishio, representing great fortune, disobeyed the god of wealth. Instead of a Jiang family member, it dove straight into Feixian, crying out that it had finally returned home. On the other side, Qin Kun watched the treasures fly away. He turned a murderous gaze toward Jiang Qiankun and sneered. Are you satisfied now? Your original body has rebelled, and the opportunities are gone. Jiang Qiankun, I admit you are strong, but you are also incredibly stupid. And yet, the boy refused everything? Why did he even come to the Earth's sovereign secret realm? What was he even doing here? Young patriarch, I do not understand. Jiang Qiankun shouted, struggling to suppress his fury. Why would you refuse so many divine opportunities? Only then did Jiang Xian pack away his melon seeds and his small bench. He patted his clothes and stood up. He looked at the nearly berserk Jiang Qiankun and laughed. It is nothing. I am just a bit of a coward. I was afraid I couldn't handle the Dao brands hidden inside those treasures. Jiang Qiankun's pupils shrank. What do you mean? Had he really been exposed? Or was Jiang Xian just bluffing? There were Dao brands hidden within the opportunities. If I refined them, those brands would have been planted within me without my knowledge, putting me under your control. Jiang Xian looked directly at Jiang Qiankun, his eyes turning cold. Am I right, Yin Yang Saint Lord? The area fell silent. Jiang Qiankun's anger vanished, replaced by a coldness so profound it seemed to freeze the very air. His aura became dark, eerie, and terrifying. When did you realize? Jiang Qiankun asked. Or rather, the Yin Body of the Yin Yang Saint Lord spoke with an icy tone. The surrounding geniuses were stunned. What was happening? Before their eyes, Jiang Qiankun's appearance began to peel away like a discarded coat. He revealed his true form, a figure entirely composed of deep, chilling blackness. Wrapped in the Yin Great Dao, he possessed no trace of a living aura. He didn't look like a man, he looked like a shadow monster. The real Jiang Qiankun is a fake. The crowd gasped in shock. Yang Kong felt a wave of embarrassment. The situation was clear now. This wasn't a man of honor. This was a predator hunting Jiang Xian. Qin Kun was even more stunned. He thought back to how certain he was that Jiang Xian was the clone. His face flushed with shame at his own error. When did I realize? Jiang Xian thought about it and chuckled. Right when you first entered the Jiang family. The Yin Body froze. His aura wavered for a moment as a surge of humiliation rose from his chest. This meant that everything he had done over the past few days had been nothing more than a clown's performance in the eyes of the Jiang family. Jiang Xian. The Yin Body roared in fury. I will see you dead. To be continued. Hope you liked today's video. Join the community by subscribing and dropping a like. I'll be back with another update tomorrow. See you then.